The defending champions of North America are now in the grand final here, and they go up against one of the most hyped teams of the year in North America as they try to battle for that place at BlizzCon and try and take the crown away from Murloc Geniuses. That is Denial Esports here in the ESL Arena in Seattle, Washington, as we now get into our grand final here for the fall regional here in North America number 2. I'm joined at the analysis concave once again by, of course, the ever so dashing Dunk, and we have Mr. Giant J How over at the very end here for the grand final. This is sure to be a fantastic grand final here, boys.
I want to go on exactly what you just said, the hype of Denial. They're finally living up to that hype, and I've never been a fan of quick roster changes, but it seems like iDream was the right one this time around.
They have performed so well, and that's actually kind of surprising given they performed so poorly at the last regional. Everyone had so much hope on them, and they didn't come through last time, so I'm so happy to see them here this time.
All right, let's take a look at our first team here. They are the current reigning champions of North America after their fantastic performance in fall regional number 1. It is Murloc Geniuses here, composing of Cthulhu, Psalm, Fury, Jun, and Caterpillar here. These 5 have come together to show NA, the region as a whole, that these players were not ever going to back down from having unstable rosters in the past, from not being able to be successful. They came together. It is Jun's second ever tournament here, and once again he's in back-to-back grand finals. Murloc Geniuses were able to bring the power in their semi-final.
It's not a bad way to start your career, to say the least.
True.
You know, we've got Cawthon. He gets a lot of praise. June, Fury, who I think is the best warrior in North America. The one hero, or the one player that we talk about from time to time, but I think doesn't get near enough credit that he deserves, is Caterpillar. His flexibility allows his team to do a lot of the things that they probably couldn't do without him. And I wanted to highlight the part that you look at the individuals that you had on there. They used to be required to make plays on their team when they were on different teams or when they were on different rosters. It seems like they now have a core group that plays together and wins games.
Right, and then of course on the other side here, across from the champions in this grand final, we have the challengers. It's going to be Denial Esports here, taking to the grand final with APM, Glaurung, King Caffeine, K1 Pro, and iDream. 3/5 of our previous Cloud9 roster with Glaurung and APM rounding it out. And oh boy, from regional to regional, have they looked different. They have come on miles and miles from what we saw in fall regional number 1 to now here in the grand final.
You have to attribute all of it to hard work and dedication. They were absolutely furious when they lost last time. They were so upset. You could tell those guys were heartbroken. They made this team and they hyped it up themselves because they truly believed that they were legendary.
Look at Glaurung. You could just even see the focus there in his eyes for just a moment. This, I think, for a long time is his first final I didn't want to say ever because I can't quite remember. Is it ever?
First ever finals appearance.
Jeez.
And talking about other legacies that we're messing with at this event, this is the end of an NA era because for the first time, Fan and Zuna might not go to a global. Zuna's already locked out. If Fan doesn't get a chance for a tiebreaker, because Denial wins here, those two will be no longer attending every global event.
And actually, that's a really good point we need to highlight here. The stakes that are on the line in this grand final. It's not just about first place in this fall regional. It's not just about actually taking that spot. It's about getting to BlizzCon. If Denial Esports wins here in this grand final, in this best of 5, they guarantee themselves a spot at BlizzCon. If they come second, we will go to a tiebreaker with Gale Force Esports, who are waiting in the wings and praying, hoping they get the opportunity that Murloc Geniuses could potentially give them here, J How.
You know that they've been watching in the back. They kept an eye on that series. They were rooting for Murloc Geniuses. And that's enough, watching them in that set against Naventic, to probably already affect your nerves. So even if Denial doesn't win here, how much is Gale Force going to be in? But we've got the first draft here, Kalaris.
All right, let's get into things. The first draft, Cursed Hollow will be our map. We have Zagara and Greymane banned out to start things off. Murloc Geniuses start with Li Ming. On the other side, Muradin Brightwing for Denial Esports, Dog.
This is the first time, maybe, that we have seen Medivh not prioritized very much by Denial, actually opting for that Brightwing in their 1-2 slot. Excellent on this map, gets the global pressure to match the fall stat, And the Muradin. I mean, a lot of this game is going to come down to the Muradin. I feel like we keep mentioning it every draft, but he has absolutely been a top performer in this event.
He has been, and you know, the interesting thing is ETC. It's like sometimes he does well, sometimes he doesn't. It kind of depends on the team comps. It seems like there's been so many people that have been adapting to that aggressive ETC style. So I'm going to be curious what Denial has. I mean, the fact that they picked up Brightwing this early makes me think that they might still have some tricks up their sleeve in game number 1 here.
All right, going into the second bans here now for Denial. What do you think they can go to here against Murloc? Any thoughts?
Right now, Murloc's composition is pretty standard. Li Ming, Falstad, those are both just tier 1 range damage heroes, no glaring weaknesses. ETC, a solid tank. So I think depending on Murloc's ban is going to try and basically flex Denial into what they think they can lock Murlocs out of. For example, if Murloc's bans a support, then suddenly Denial is way more incentivized to pick up a second support in their rotation. Right. And honestly, it's just too early in the draft, I think, for Denial to have any clue what Murlocs is really going for.
I mean, to further that, it's kind of like on the other side. We're going to have a Kerrigan ban here, keep the melees fully in check. I mean, Denial, I wish I could say that we have enough data on them to say this is what we think that they're going to do, because they've been throwing out anything and everything. Their drafts are not consistent, and it's consistently throwing off the other team. They are blowing through these tournaments so far, through the tournaments over. They have not dropped a single game yet.
Right. Need we remind you as well out there that currently Denial Esports in this tournament have vanquished Murloc Geniuses in the group stage. So they come into this probably with a little bit of confidence as they pick up Tassadar to round out their double support comp.
I wonder if Murloc Geniuses is trying to bait the Glaurung Zeratul pick here, because Kerrigan ban, Greymane ban, Illidan ban.
Tracer maybe?
I mean, Tracer, now that they picked up the Tassadar, that could actually be quite excellent.
Yeah.
And we saw Glaurung dominate with it. I mean, he plays those two heroes so well.
Yes.
And he was, I'm pretty sure on his Twitter it says, I love Zeratul. That's how much he plays Zeratul. Right. But at the same time, what we saw out of his Tracer play is pretty amazing too.
And the fact that they have Brightwing in first rotation means that they're not going to be too fearful of something like a Polymorph coming in later on down the line for Murloc Geniuses, unless they went into something like a Medivh, but Polybomb alone for it is quite expensive.
Polybomb alone is generally not enough to deal with Tracer. The ETC in combination with that can be. That's one of the reasons I'm a little scared if they go Tracer here, because ETC just has that snap response with the stun. You know, not a lot of tanks have that on such a short cooldown. Johanna has to use Blessed Shield. Muradin's stun is a lot harder to hit on Tracer, whereas ETC can instantly respond. This Tychus pickup is interesting because I wonder if they're still waiting to pick Glaurung's here until they see the last pick, or maybe he's learned to play that hero.
It almost seems like what we saw at a Murloc. We see the occasional double warrior because they're capable of running it, which is one of the reasons why I said Caterpillar is so crucial to a lot of their setups. And then Tychus, maybe it's a preemptive push off of Murloc Geniuses. All the melee heroes are pretty much gone. They're off, which means that the only way to supplement that front line is another warrior, else they might be looking at triple range. I mean, there's a lot of potential there, but when I look at the bans in particular and the pickups, it seems like that's a threat very much towards Murloc Geniuses.
Cattle's Thrall, though, is one of the best in the region, and the fact that it's still available this deep in the draft is a little surprising. I think Murloc Geniuses would be really safe and have a standard composition if they went Thrall Rhaegar, for example, but they're not interested in safe and standard. They are going for the Panda.
Yeah, and not only that, I mean, is it maybe an anticipating move as to what could come out as the final spot for Denial Esports? What do you think?
I think it's a direct response that says, if you bring in Tracer, she's not hitting anything, and then if they turn on it, then ETC is going to be there. That's the biggest thing. And so what we saw Gale Force get punished on at the last regional is that the minute you can turn on that, of course Tracer plays a little bit differently now with the talent changes. So having that ability, I'm not exactly sure. And there's Rhaegar. They're going double support here, guys.
Double support is no surprise if you expect to see a high-impact diving hero like a Tracer or a Zeratul. Both of those heroes suffer if they can't kill their target immediately when they jump on the backline. If you combine the Lily Blinds plus the total sustain output of Murloc Geniuses, I feel like it's going to be very difficult for Denial to actually assassinate the backline, but that's okay because their composition has Tychus, who can just shred the tank instead.
I mean, this right here seemed like Denial Esports had something in their pocket thinking we're pulling this out. Murloc Geniuses, it seems like they've neutralized a lot of it with their pickups and with their bans, and they are going into Tracer. I wondered if they were still going to go into it. And they are. That's going to be very difficult for Tracer to get the same amount of value had we not seen double support here coming out on the side of Murloc.
Yeah, pretty well telegraphed. Well, I guess, what's the best way to describe it? Pretty well telegraphed for Murloc Geniuses to then anticipate moving down the line here. As, of course, once again, Glaurung going to have to be one of the playmakers here for Denial Esports to try and make this work. But it's an interesting composition overall. There's a lot of damage behind the side of Denial Esports, but can it melt through this double support comp?
We have seen the Tassadar Brightwing Tracer compositions work time and time again. And I think especially once we hit level 16, Muradin himself can add to that dive potential and overall damage output so well because we have seen Caffeine. He picks Give him the Axe, and he gives him the Axe.
He definitely gives him the axe, and you get that extra damage there. The thing about that is between Brightwing, between Tassadar, between Tracer, if Tracer gets neutralized a little bit, is that enough damage to win team fights against that double support? You have to assume that Li Ming, depending on the build, could easily go into something like Calamity and punish Tracer for going in, or could possibly go with a little bit of the reset of the level 4. I mean, there's a lot of options, I think, and then Falstad, just a terrific hero altogether.
It's an interesting little situation we found ourselves in here. Normally, of course, you see a lot of Tassadar with Tracer. Was there any room for Denial Esports all to go full Tracer and have an Abathur in there? Or do you think that this composition as a whole will work out better for them going into the first game here?
It seems like their plan was not as all-in on Tracer as the Abathur might have been. So they have the Brightwing, they have the Tassadar. They could have still opted for a different hero. I know we haven't seen the Sonya very much, but that definitely could have been the style of hero they picked, the more bruisery choice, rather than committing fully to the dive. Whereas I think if you go with the Abathur, you're not leaving yourself open.
All right, well, let's take a look at the lineups here. Denial Esports versus Murloc Geniuses. This is the grand final of the North America Fall Regional number 2. Jay Howe, who are you looking out for?
All eyes have to be on Glaurung on Tracer. Everything that they've built around, I know we talked about it's not built around that, but it's built for that to work, and if it doesn't work, it's going to be trouble.
I'm still not convinced about the Lili. I'm going to give Cotton Luck another shot to convince me.
All right. Let's see how it goes here. We are heading over to the Xfinity Casters desk for the game number 1 of the Grand Finals here at PAX West.
Welcome to the ESL Arena at PAX West for the Grand Finals of the 2nd North American Fall Regional, Game 1 on Cursed Hollow and Dread. Murloc Geniuses at Burbank, one of their strengths was being able to choke out people in draft, and it felt like they did the exact same thing versus a lot of Glaurung's picks.
Yeah, I mean, the last time that we saw them do this exact same thing was, I mean, surprisingly against Denial Esports, because Glaurung kind of has this predictable hero pool. They pretty much build their drafts to be able to counter them. We saw at the last regional that it was a Lili into the Illidan, expecting that to come out. You know they banked on the Tracer or Zeratul were really the only options remaining for him. So that pickup there, we're going to have to see if it really pays off. You know they expected it, but is it the right choice? We're going to find out here in game number 1.
The fact that it took so long to pick up the Tracer too, maybe just using whatever time they had to really make sure they knew what they wanted and even start strategizing about how they were going to play this out versus Lili. But look at our poll. A lot of viewers believing that Denial Esports will win in this matchup. I think Murloc Geniuses, they're hungry for revenge here.
I mean, I have to have faith. I lost a lot of faith in them. I guess I doubted a lot of what their moves were when it came to their drafting choices and their success in the last regional. And I felt the same way going into this one. And again, they've just constantly been winning over and over again. I know that they had very easily predicted what we saw Denial was going to be moving into this draft. So I've got to give it to them. I think they have what it takes here. They know what's going to be happening. They've thought this out well enough that they're going to show that the Tracer is nothing to fear here in the hands of Glaurung.
Murloc Geniuses is playing for revenge, but they still have less pressure on their shoulders because they've already secured their BlizzCon ticket. This would just be an extra icing on the cake, if you will, but Denial, this is their ticket to BlizzCon. Yes, they would still be able to win the tiebreaker match after that, but they don't want to go to that at all. They want to win this event and just guarantee it right from that.
Yeah, that's what they're going to be looking for. Tribute will be spawning here in 30 to 45 seconds, a little bit of a time frame. We do see June kind of his posture to maybe get the Giants, and we see as well Denial Esports is moving out. So again, it's going to be the traditional trade-off of Giants here on Cursed Hollow with the RNG that can happen. We'll see who ends up getting the upper hand. I would say on the side of Denial that they have the advantage in the sense that they have a global, but so does Murloc's, but mainly just the Tracer style composition doesn't necessarily thrive when it comes to wave clear. So if it happens happens to be on the other side of the map. A small advantage for Murloc.
Also, the Brightwing is in the bottom lane, which is where the Giants are already pushing. Falstad would have to fly up, I guess, to try to soak that, and then he wouldn't have his flight if he needed to get into the fight. But the Tribute is spawning in the top half of the battleground, so it's going to favor Denial. APM to push with the Giants that were picked up by them, and Falstad's going to try to stay down here as long as he can, and hopefully not get into a situation where he has to be pulled up to this Tribute.
Yeah, Fury barely being able to get the delay there as Cawthon takes a bit of harass. Lili usually is pretty good over these long duration fights. As K1 Pro's getting the channel, nobody's going to be able to stop him. That is going to be the first Tribute here to Denial, as everybody is just so concentrating on those Giants. And I was going to compliment that with the pulse bomb up, I thought that Glowing was going to have pretty heavy impact. As I say that though, he's going in on Psalm. Stormbolt will hit. Good heal coming out from June, but he is still under pressure. Bomb ends up missing here, but he ends up falling. That is going to be first blood here going to Denial Esports.
He spotted that he'd used a teleport early on there, and the body blocks were great to pick up first blood. And APM with the Giants did a fair amount of damage to the bottom structures, getting a tower almost completely down, and in top. Because of the kill that they got, they were able to get a tower there. So Denial starting to get ahead in experience, looking toward those level 7 talents.
They did get a couple of small wins, but the experience not too heavily in their favor quite yet, and that is something we always need to be keeping track of. And we see Glorong on the Tracer once again. I can't help but notice that that was the first bomb we've seen, and it ends up going to be a miss. It gains value when it still sits on the ground, right? So it's not always the worst thing, but he does do that quite frequently. That didn't do anything during the first skirmish, but it can in the later part of the game if he ends up missing the bomb onto the target that we want. So we got to keep a close eye on him. He's got to be very influential here. 7 tiers picked up and a very fast rotation for Denial, Gilly.
Yeah, they're not very damage heavy, so they are relying a lot on Glaurung to get the damage and get the pulse bomb to finish off somebody and take them out. But that is a second Tribute very quickly for Denial, and they're already sitting at 1 away from getting a curse. Both teams, though, with those level 7 talents, and because that was picked up so early, they've gone really fast through those, should not be a situation where either has their heroic abilities over the other, unless there's some big kills that happen before the next Tribute.
Yeah, that was a lot of patience there shown on the side of APM when it came to the polymorph. He was knowing that ETC was going to be able to use his knockback, try and get the interrupt on the channel, so he waited till he was just about in range, got the polymorph, confirmed the cap there. It's a small win, but it's those type of things as a support that really can make a player stand out. So we'll see if we see more of that from APM, because he's been just on this Brightwing almost the entire tournament this series.
And he's showing a different build than we see normally, and not going a full phase shift build. Cawthon's in a lot of trouble. Polymorph hits, and Lili is not getting out of that. Another kill for Denial, but APM picking up cleanse so that he still has that, maybe so that he can cleanse somebody out of a potential mosh pit, or even through a Mighty Gust. But that's not something we typically see usually, especially with Hyper Shift. It's full phase shift build.
Yeah, and the positioning of this Tribute was known because we saw it the first two, and it puts it into a position to where now Lili has the opportunity to be able to make this rotation to get a small delay. They should be able to get that, and though Denial seems to be the ones dictating the pace of the game, they haven't really gotten themselves too large of an advantage. Lili still trying to find make her way up here, and keep in mind, this double support is going to do pretty well in these long, kind of drawn-out situations here. As Falstad a bit split, Glorong tries to punish him.
Yeah, double support on either side, so nobody going to be at a huge disadvantage if the fight goes long, which so far it has, both trying to poke back and forth. Li Ming is great for that. If she can start to throw all of her abilities, hit multiple people with the giant orb, for instance, and it'll take a while to heal them back up, as APM's trying to do with both Dream and King Caffeine. Caffeine has been zoning Falstad away from joining his team for so long, but finally Murlocs have pushed back, and June will pick up a Tribute.
Yeah, he's going to be able to get it there, and though Caffeine was zoning Cattle away from the Tribute, Glorong and his rotation and his isolation wasn't necessarily the most successful either, giving Murlocs the upper hand on that Tribute here. And I can't help but appreciate that we've seen Murloc Geniuses actually very aggressive flight. They're not going to be able to get anything yet, but again, they haven't necessarily done the best when it comes to the early game, but they are without a doubt the most successful team and just not falling behind. Yeah. Every single time their opponents, you can have the kills, anything of the like, they do a very good job of min-maxing the experience around the map to make sure, yeah, you might be able to get this Tribute, yes, you might be able to get a curse, but we are not going to count ourselves out when it comes to the later half of this game, and we see it right now. 2 Tributes and Giants, a lot of advantages here for Denial Esports, and they're just like, it's 10-10. This Tribute fight is equal to any other.
it's Murloc Geniuses, right? So they're used to a style of play like with Zagarnitis, where they understand and are watching at all times the mini-map to know where they need to be soaking right at that moment. And it's paying off for them. This is a good spot for them to siege and defend specifically around this tribute as they throw out their damage because it's in a protected and defended position. And Denial will have to move around the side, but Brightwing's starting to come in. So looking to maybe start to put the aggression on.
Yeah, they are getting a large amount of harass, and there comes out the laser very early as well. Fury under a lot of pressure. He gets isolated, ends up going for the power slide and the polymorph, but Ancestral ends up landing. The bomb is going to hit him as well as the Gust barely keeps him up. Glorung's going in for the kill, but the Jugs is going to be able to keep him up.
Jug of 1,000 cups and nothing to stop that out. Fury at maximum health again, and he still has Mosh Pit if the situation presents itself. Denial would have to funnel out through a couple of different choke points, and they are leaving this. They say, this is not going to be a curse for Murlocs. We have burnt a lot that didn't work out, and so we're going to have to give this away. At least K1 Pro is going to stall that one more time, let them get into lane faster.
Yeah, and so one thing, you brought up the argument about having the double support when we saw the tribute on the upper half of the map. But the difference between this double support is that, number one, Brightwing doesn't have necessarily the largest amount of healing, especially when you cross compared to a Rhaegar Lili. That's not even close. But then Tassadar does not have any direct healing himself. He only negates a large amount of DPS. And granted, he has the highest amount of damage negated on a single target within a 5-second time frame. That doesn't matter when the fight is over a long period of time. That is where Lili and Rhaegar are just going to be scaling so heavily, not even considering the fact that if we moved into the 13s here on the side of Rhaegar, getting the chain heal on a shorter cooldown, I mean, Kung Fu Hustle, if it dare get to level 20, is just insane. So yes, it is double support, but Murloc Geniuses is far more successful if the fight lasts that 30-40 second time frame.
I now can only hope that maybe they run out of mana, and that's not something to bank on.
Yeah, that is not something I'd be looking for either. And they've done a reasonable amount of job here for Murloc Geniuses. They turned up the tributes 2-2. There's going to be a lot more pressure coming out from Denial when this next map objective spawns. They're going to have the Knights, they're going to have the Giants, and the Global's sitting up when it comes to the Giant pressure up there. But they've gotten themselves 3-quarter level lead, and we'll see if they'll be able to capitalize on that power spike here for their composition. Tassadar is going to end up getting that prescience, and we'll see if he can somehow make a very big play here, because K1's been pretty influential on that Tassadar throughout this tournament.
Fury was watching to see if anyone was going to rotate up to stop Cattle and the rest of Murloc Geniuses from getting these towers. Giants will continue to push on to that top fort, so Brightwing's going to stay there again as always because he can go in, but nobody's in position. Nobody had 13 from Murloc Geniuses either, so they're just going to have to eat this curse from Denial, but it's up to Denial to make something happen with it.
Yes, exactly. Giving up the curse is not that bad as long as they don't let their opponents totally capitalize. They're going to be pressuring on the bottom half here. But we've seen a lot of teams in the past, especially out of the European region. Misfits is one that comes to mind that typically struggle, that even though they get the curse, if you don't do anything with it, it is debatably one of the weaker map objectives that exist within Heroes of the Storm. So we'll see. Typically, you're going to want a minimum of 2 forts is considered to be about a good curse here, as they do secure the first one for Denial Esports.
And it was a well-calculated risk to take from Murloc Geniuses to eat that. They didn't lose anybody. They didn't panic and go in without 13. And so as long as, again, they don't lose too much, they make the right decisions in the defense. They also have 2 tributes themselves, but Glowering wants to go in. They've got the rest of a lot of members of Denial here, and Brightwing can always phase shift in if they try to get for a full fight, but they want to get another fort, and it looks like it's mid they're trying to siege down. Yeah, they are trying to get the harass. Fury has taken a lot of damage. Last time we saw him in a struggling position, Giants are pressuring on a bottom, but Glorong getting so much damage out, gets the recall, and he ends up getting bit there by June, confirming the kill here, turning the tides. The Gus is only going to hit one target, and Caffeine should be able to walk out, but now Murloc Genius is finally fighting back on this composition from Denial Esports. Murloc Geniuses did not lose more than 1 fort in the towers at the keep. That is a lot of experience for Denial. They're a full level ahead, but still, even with that, Murloc Geniuses, they're picking up their bruisers. They've got to know that Denial, being off the battleground completely, are at their own boss, so they're rotating in to this one here on the bottom. Yeah, it's a really good job for them being able to pick this up. Neither team is going to gain too massive an advantage. We do see the rotation. 2 people here are moving over from Denial Esports, going to be able to try and stall out as long as possible, scare Murlocs off. We've seen Denial be successful with this against some of the weaker teams in the tournament, but it looks like Murlocs will be able to confirm it in time. Wave of Force just a double check there, and they're going to be able to trade these bosses. The 16 will slowly be picked up here for Denial, and it's curse point for Murlocs. It is. They are, depending on when this comes up, going to have to give up maybe 1 depending on when it pops up, but they have a boss to defend and have done a fantastic job getting through that curse from Denial. They did not lose both bosses. They didn't lose a lot of structures. It was well played by them.
It's exactly what they want. It's kind of strange because sieging with a curse is exactly what you want to do, but typically if you end up 5-man committing to a region, then your opponents will be able to respond to that. And it's actually usually less efficient to be worried about that fight than anything. I know I would always, when I would shot call, be in a position to where if my opponents were willing to risk grouping up as a 5-man, I am more than comfortable taking that skirmish as long as it's not when the curse ends. That's very important because the minions are going to stack on the lanes. Ooh. Great power slide there. The minions are going to stack on the side lanes or wherever they're not sieging up because, again, they're going to be pushing for the free health. So as long as you do it while the curse is not ending, it is a dream situation. And we saw Murloc was able to bait just that out of Glorong and actually come out on top of it as well.
Murloc's lost their top fort still, but they're almost 16 in time for the tribute. So they'll be looking to get a curse of their own, and later game they'll be doing more damage along with it. 16 is also here for Denial. They have Critterized this time by Brightwing, so they can make somebody vulnerable and hope that that pairs and synergizes with the Pulse Bomb to maximize damage. APM's in the back, picks up the tribute, no problem. Fury and the rest of Murlocs could not break the line of Denial.
And we have seen Denial has been able to control a majority of these tributes, but it hasn't been so much from team fighting. It has legitimately all come down to the fact that they've just had more hasteful rotations here. K1 Pro has the E. There's going to be the first version. He's going to be able to get out of there. But again, it comes down to how quick they are rotating over Murloc Geniuses. And that's honestly not that bad, again, because Murloc is so good at just taking a step back, thinking about what they need to be doing to make sure they don't fall behind in this game. I am looking at Denial's Give Him the Axe, as Dunk brought up on the analyst desk there. Without a doubt, Caffeine seems to be the most successful with that talent. He suddenly provides an absurd amount of threat to the backline here. So we'll see if that double support can really deal with what Caffeine is going to be doing to the backline along with Lar.
Yeah, oh, this is a scary spot for Murloc's. Denial are waiting in the bush. There's a lot of members of Murloc's here. And again, they were trying to set up in a way that they could stall out Murloc Geniuses from getting set up, as that's been, as you mentioned,
Cattle's in a bad spot.
Oh,
that was so scary.
Oh, there's the jump in from King Caffeine. He wants to start using it, give him the axe. Gust has been used. Glowering is separated from the team. Drill is burning down Murloc Geniuses. They finally start to focus some attention on it, but APM is in the back. Again, Jug of 1,000 Cups is used. The tribute capped. Here comes Fury into. He has the potential for Mosh, but if they want it, they take out Tracer. That's one kill they need.
And the Ancestral does end up landing, which means that Denial is trying to retreat. Glorong, their composition built around Wave of Force, is trying to choke out. Great stun and Force Wall there. K1 Pro keeping his team alive, but Tribute going over to Denial Esports.
And that puts them right back in the same position they were before, where they may get a curse if they can just pick up the next tribute. Murlocs has been sitting here so long trying to get a curse of their own, but if they want that, they need to be able to get into the point. Every time Denial has been able to stall them out or push them away off the point long enough for APM to get it, yes, Denial did lose Tracer, but still Denial is winning this tribute battle.
There is a positive to this situation, though. Denial has done a very good job of being able to make the rotations, get the skirmishes, but they haven't really won a team fight. Murloc Geniuses is constantly being patient, waiting for Glorong to possibly make a mistake and be able to capitalize. Again, they have the double support. The long fight is exactly what they want, and when it gets to that point, they've won every single time. Normally, this would be a problem, but we're looking at Cursed Hollow, where the win condition typically is going to come down to losing a fight. Turns out Murlocs haven't done that yet, or going to be losing a boss. When you look at boss control, Murloc's the dream comparative to Denial Esports.
Right.
They are okay with waiting this out. It's a very rare situation that you get to see this, but Murloc's isn't hating where they're at right now in this game.
Yeah, they have Wave of Force, Mighty Gust, Mosh Pit too, if Denial decides that they want to group all on the boss point. Lots of things Murlocs can do to steal a boss away. Another tribute. Murlocs have had enough. They want a curse now. They definitely don't want to let Denial have another one too, so they've all gotten a set up. Paddle moving around to the side, seeing if there's any flanks coming out from Denial. Similarly, seeing if he can gust someone in a good way. Here comes Glowering now.
If this ends up being a 3-man wipe for either of the teams, it is a huge tempo swing. It's a double boss opportunity with a curse on top of it. It is very scary. This means much more than a curse for these two teams. Stormbolt, Caffeine, and the Root as well from June. Getting a lot of pressure. There's the dance back and forth, but slowly Denial's realizing we don't heal with our double supports. And look at the health bars of Cattle. And the rest of Murlocs just saying so much over. Caffeine, though, looking for the flank.
But Murlocs also have mercenary pushes in 2 lanes. Top and mid have siege down forts. And that is perfect if they can get this curse then. There is a gust to pull everyone else away with Dream and Cattle in the middle of Murloc Geniuses. Jug of 1,000 Cups used, the jump in from King Caffeine. It doesn't stall it out. He doesn't have heavy impact. There's a Mosh on the backside. The rest of Murloc's trying to deal with this Murden that is wrecking them.
It's just ruining everything about this fight. Brightwing going to be coming in as well, but Glaring has already gone down. Murloc Genius's health bars are slowly whittling away. Psalm is trying to get out here, and the heal is going to be able to keep him up and barely be able to teleport out. Murloc Genius is going 1 for 0 so far, but now they're going to be turning it as their eyes are on APM, but Caffeine is giving them the axe here. Everybody's returning, but look at Gatto with the flight. He ends up coming back in. I can't believe it. Nobody is dying, Gilly.
What value. King Caffeine got out of healing static and give him the axe 1v4ing the rest of the team for a while with a mosh pit on the other side. And Denial again lose Tracer, but they get the all-important tribute to curse their opponents. What are they doing with this, though?
Exactly. That is what we have to consider. We saw the first curse. It turns out they got a fort, they rotated, they took a skirmish. A second curse of the game. We see again, they decide to take a skirmish. That is not what you want if you are Denial Esports. Opening the map not only complements your ability to get a large amount of harass and just flank there from Glarang on the Tracer, but then it also puts it in a position where you open up the win condition. They do have an advantage here, being able to get on the boss before Murloc Geniuses. As we see, they will be winning this race for a short period of time, and Caffeine understands this, trying to make the rotation to be able to beat them. Will they be able to stall out Murloc Geniuses? Because again, Murloc Geniuses has far better boss control than their opponents.
They do, and they almost have 20 as well. Falstad was soaking in the mid lane wave. Of course, again, stopped King Caffeine, and Denial are not able to get 2 bosses in a row. Murloc makes it through another curse.
Yes, and now they will be just backing out, clearing out the respective bosses for both these teams. 20 tier advantage will be picked up. Rewind is an option there for, I'm trying to figure out the level 20 spikes. Rewind for Murden is going to be an option. Laser is something that we could see on the side of Tychus. Brightwing doesn't necessarily thrive for kill potential with the rewind opportunity. I'm trying to figure it out. I really do feel like overall Murloc Geniuses has a bigger spike here. Lee's level 20s across the board are insane. Repulsion is just something that's so difficult to deal with. Bolt as well, that is an opportunity for Fury or even Death Metal or Tour Bus. All of those are very crazy. So I feel like Murloc Geniuses now has finally got themselves an advantage, even though it doesn't really look like it. We're 3-2 in this game. They're behind structurally, but they do have that curse point.
I love seeing ETC players hold out on their level 20 Storm talents because there are options there. At Burbank, we saw Daihu single-handedly win a game for Vox to Healy by waiting and dropping Death Metal when he knew he was going down, but it secured them the mosh pit they needed to win the game. That is, he could also go for Bolt. And as you mentioned, Tour Bus too, we've seen, I think it was BKB who's probably got the coolest Tour Bus by far.
Yeah, he had by far the coolest Tour Bus. He brought all his friends along with the ride, along with his opponents as well. Just ridiculous play here, but teams are going to be backing out, clearing out the majority of the mercs here. They're all just posturing, waiting for what is going to be a possible curse here for Murloc Geniuses. Bosses are not going to be up for some time. So this is where Denial begins to get in a moment of panic. They have so much pressure. Again, they don't have necessarily the best wave clear. This is a curse, and for the first time, Murloc has beaten them when it comes to the rotations. It looks like they're just going to be giving up. They're legitimately just going to give up a curse here.
That was mercenary pressure with 2 different lanes, but no bosses for a while.
Yeah, there are no bosses, but I don't know how I feel about this. This is going to be interesting. We'll see. Murloc Geniuses now with the first curse for them of this game. I expect them to be a bit more efficient here, less concentration when it comes to the skirmishes. If they stomp down mid, keep in mind Falstad still soaking on the side lane. Afraid of the Giants being able to get the keep.
Tracer's going to go in for that 1v1 on Falstad in the bottom lane. Falstad flies out!
That was it. Brightwing teleported! That was huge!
Oh, they're going to lose King Caffeine. Wave of Force hits him. Maybe they're going to lose him. Healing static will not save Murden this time.
And the Gus with the repulsion there. Now K1, he should be able to get out of this. Laser coming down over the wall, but I expect Murloc Geniuses to be knocking on that keep. Such a big play there from Cattle, understanding the circumstances and drawing so many resources out of Denial as they are going to be able to pick up this very first keep of the game.
An aggressive positioning from Fury 2, watching to see if anyone makes the wrong move. He can go in. He did pick up Bolt of the Storm, so he can bolt in and get the perfect mosh. A keep is down, the first keep of the game. flame dropped by Murloc Geniuses.
And now they are moving towards the bottom keep as well, trying to see if they can get a kill. Keep in mind, 4 seconds before that keep turns on, they're in a very risky position. Force wall coming in, isolating now. Everything seems to be shooting. Cawthon is in a bad spot. Lauren goes in, so I'm taking a lot of damage, and that is going to be the Storm Shield. Not going to confirm a kill yet, but good repulsion attempt there from Murloc Geniuses as they need to be backing out.
Yeah, they've got to back out. They'll have Gust in a few seconds if Denial want to push them out. Dismounts iDream. K1 Pro is still on the hunt, though. Hits a force wall. Murloc Geniuses are turning this right around.
Bolt.
Fury goes in. There's a Gust, pushes them away, way out from their base.
iDream is trying to be able to survive, and if he does, keep in mind, we're huge and central. He actually misses there. So one target going down, and now Caffeine is going to be alive. Glorong is just loving the opportunity to be able to chase them down. Huge W. Som, good night. He's going down now. 2 people dead for Murloc Geniuses as they are trying to withdraw.
There's no Gust this time to get them out of trouble. But Fury gets hit by Polymorph, and they're going to throw out the hammering, but he's just going to run away from the rest of the team, see if he can make it out this way, and that allows Falstad and Rhaegar to get back. There is a keep pretty low on Murloc Genius' side, and that's where Denial are starting to group up.
This is far more valuable for Fury than it looks like. Not only is it buying time for his team, this keep's going to open, but these bosses are spawning in 30 to 40 seconds for both sides here. And I don't think Murloc Geniuses is going to be able to lose the game quite yet, but it looks like Denial might be getting hungry. There is a lot of dance potential there when it comes to Glorong onto the core. Keep in mind, Mosh Pit's still available. That's going to be a laser. And speaking of Mosh Pit, that's going to be a 3-man here as Denial looks like they're on the back foot. They do end up getting the Gust, not confirming the kill. Maybe this could be it.
Storm Shield hit all of them, and lots of Denial are all healthy. Fury gets thrown way away.
The resets are a thing.
There he goes. APM is going to be the first to go down. This core starting to drop. It's at 80%. They're taking out Glorong and K1 Pro. They're both incredibly low. Tracer is out. K1 Pro drops. They get iDream 2 and King Caffeine, the only one left. Murloc Geniuses defend their core.
And that means Murloc is going to very confidently and with swagger walk onto the other side of the core map and be able to secure the core. Game number 1 here. Very, very well done. Going over to Murloc Geniuses, playing so patient, understanding exactly what the situations their composition thrives at, realizing what their opponents want to do in a majority of these team fights, and just constantly min-max in so many different ways. I'm very impressed with what we've seen from Murloc Geniuses here at game number 1.
I think the most impressive thing for me from Murlocs was their mercenary camp priorities.
Yes.
They always had mercenary camps that threw wrenches into the plans of Denial the entire game. They had to make some tough decisions to allow free structure damage so that they could keep fighting over tributes. And although Denial did have more curses, it was Murloc Geniuses who were able to do more off of the one they did get.
Yeah, and with the foresight that they had there, and to know that Tracer was going to be the option or Zeratul for Glorong, just ridiculous. But that is game number 1. We're going to see what our analysts had to say about that game.
Thank you very much, guys. What a way to start off our grand finals here between, of course, Denial Esports and Murloc Geniuses, and the current reigning North American champions do defend their spot initially here after a tense back-and-forth game there. That could have gone either way, especially considering the conclusion.
I mean, it seems like they just want to have nothing but exciting games. I mean, the first half of games always look one way, the second half always looks the other. Murloc Geniuses is putting on a show, perhaps? They're doing one heck of a job. I mean, this is some of the team fights that we saw, Doug. I mean, it was back and forth a lot. I mean, everything going in. Fury, as Glorong, we talked about him making the plays, trying to make it, but the double support keeping him alive.
Yeah, so this was actually my main concern during the drafting phase, is it felt like Denial did not have enough damage to take team fights convincingly. Multiple times you saw them getting in the back line, but they did not actually get the kills they needed. This game was much closer than the compositions would suggest, because of the curse control by Denial. That was absolutely excellent. We saw multiple clutch polymorphs from APM to secure tribute channels. We saw multiple zoning and early rotations from Denial to secure tribute channels. And that's the only reason they were ever ahead. None of these team fights went in their favor.
Yeah, this is one of the one of the middle ones that we saw here as Caffeine. You know, he was forced to retreat. It seemed like Murloc Geniuses, as you said, it doesn't seem like Denial had enough damage. That was actually one of the things that I said as well. I was like, are they going to be able to get there? And that double support secured it. This was a little bit of a misplay, or what it seemed like. This was almost a big mistake. They're not able to keep their team alive. And this was when the core started to come in.
It was. This fight was the reason the core was so close. Cattle went for a beautiful gust onto Dream into Murlocs, and they tried to focus him down, but the Ancestral actually went on Fury instead of Cawthon, so the Lili didn't get kept alive. That meant that Denial actually had one shot in this fight to win a team fight and end the game, and they couldn't quite do it.
I thought they were actually going to do so well in that fight where the Gus came in, but the clump up of Murloc Geniuses against the amount of damage from the overkill that Tychus was putting out was insane. I turned away for a moment, and then I looked back again, and they were all at half health, and I went, what's going on? And you had to actually inform me as to what had happened during all of that, so it was definitely a bit of crazy overall. But Murloc Geniuses takes the win, regardless of what happens throughout that game. They put the W on the board here in this best of 5. Did the Lili do enough to warrant her position in that game? What do you think? Did she deny enough damage? What was it like?
Absolutely. I mean, we saw multiple team fights. Basically, anytime the Ancestral actually landed, Denial had to pretty much stop all their offensive momentum and be like, oh, wait, guys, all their health bars are full. What do we do now?
I mean, there were fights. I think the ones that drug on, I know Dredd talked about it, the ones that drug on, all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, this fight's been going on about 20, 30 seconds. Why is the blue team full blue? Yeah. Why is the red team like half red? It was really crazy the way that played out, and Jugs, I think, was a huge, huge value here.
Well, Denial Esports, unfortunately for them, do lose that first game after getting the 2-0 against Murloc Geniuses in the first series that they actually experienced. Does that put a little bit of a tilter on them, or are they still kind of we've still got a lot of a series to play out here?
That's the thing I love about best of 5. You don't necessarily feel the pressure after one game. I mean, we saw this in the last set. Murloc, they were the ones that went down. They came back, and it makes for good sets. And I think there's a lot to expect there. I don't think that we're going to see Denial make the same type. And I don't want to call it a draft mistake. I think that they might fine-tune it a little bit and try and put something together maybe a little bit tighter for them.
Well, I've got to ask you, Dunk, going on to our next map, it's Towers of Doom, which we have seen Denial Esports bring out what Dredd like to call Chaos Comp, basically. So is that something that Murloc Genius is going to look to here as something they have to firstly deny and then maybe have to just play around in general? Are Denial Esports going to bring that out again?
Well, the Chaos Comp, as Dredd puts it, I think actually plays to their strengths. Denial has a roster filled with excellent players who are capable of making decisions on their own. I mean, those players have struggled with coordinated shot calling for a long time. So when they can break into those skirmishes and rely on their own game senses, their own mechanical skill, rather than needing the most coordinated effort, that's when they really shine. And I think Murloc doesn't want to try and play that game against Denial. They need to prevent them from getting that Chaos Comp.
Likewise, on the other side, now that I think about it, I believe it was Murloc Geniuses that played the Tracer, Abatha, Tassadar on this map, right?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about Chaos Comps, and Murloc has been a little bit innovative as well with some of their drafts. So it's almost a matter of who is willing to be crazy and who's willing to try and draft normal. I think we actually saw it yesterday, or 2 days ago. There were several teams that just were like, well, we're going to try something different. You're going to try something different. Dredd had a lot of fun with it that day. And I think it's just one of the things that there's so much diversity, as Dunk talked about. Yeah. And what I wanted to talk about with Murloc earlier is that the players on those teams allow for you to do something different to try to throw your opponent off. Both teams are capable of that.
All right, we're going into the draft powered by Auros. And once again, Denial Esports here is going to go to a pickup of Medivh first pick and bring the power quickly. So this already gives rise to the idea of they want to go for something similar to what they did before.
I mean, we've seen Stitches, and it was Murloc Geniuses that kind of, the amount of hooks that Fury's landed, I would love to see the hook percentage lands that he's made. They've been phenomenal, but obviously on this side, we've seen some crazy stuff already. We saw a composition like this on Cursed Hollow from another team where it was Stitches Medivh, kind of the take your hero away and we're just going to take him with us. So I'm curious if that's something that's in the minds of Denial, and if so, what Murloc might respond with it. These two picks are crucial right here.
The real question, I think, is whether Denial will commit to that Stitches in this 2-3 slot. Because we saw in the earlier drafts where they first picked Medivh, they were absolutely willing to actually not pick the Stitches and just force the ban out, rather than picking it and actually using the Portal Gorge. So I wonder if they don't actually like that strategy, they're not comfortable with it, maybe it's too all in on one thing for them, and they would rather just force their opponents to ban it than actually play it themselves.
And even if it did get banned, they also ran a similar comp with Leoric. With a very similar comp. So I think that's fully on board, but they're going to go early with it and get ETC picked up.
All right, ban's going to come in now for Murloc Geniuses to what they want to go for. Considering what Denial Esports already has, they have quite a well-rounded position. If you want to ban out the support you don't want your opponents to have, maybe that's the right time now to do it. Or what do you think?
My concern for Denial is by picking this ETC, they've actually weakened their Stitches Medivh comp quite a lot. So Murloc doesn't need to ban it anymore. I think they can actually just let it through because I don't think Denial wants to play the double tank ETC Stitches. That's just so little damage. I mean, we saw the double tank work for Murlocs, I think, earlier when they ran that Stitches. They had Murden as well, but Murden contributes a lot more than ETC off of that hook.
And something that we saw in the previous regional, of course, this is a much different team just because of that iDream pickup. And there's the Stitches ban. They just don't want to deal with it, don't even want to deal with the possibility of it. But I think it also leaves open the fact that Illidan could still be a possibility in response. And the fact that they've set it up so that they could pick up a late Illidan, I think that's a potential thing that we could see Glaurung on. I'm not sure, because in the previous regional, Glaurung was punished on that. But it's with their team comp now, it's actually allowing him to shine and not be punished as hard.
Tyka's being banned out.
Possible Leoric coming up, double warrior.
We could see that, Leoric. I would like to see what Murloc picks before rounding out Denial's composition, just because depending how Murloc drafts this, there's actually a really big opening for a Brightwing Zeratul rotation from Denial that would absolutely destroy Murlocs if they went for something like a solo healer Rhaegar that can just be picked off in the backline and abuse that double global. But Murloc saw it
just
coming.
take it for yourself.
Oh yeah, they saw it coming. They do not want to deal with the double global on this map and the possibility of Zeratul. I love that Brightwing pickup for them, just completely shutting down the possibility of Glaurung playing Zeratul.
All right, let's see what they're going to round this out with as fourth pick coming in now.
Murloc right now, I think, is at a spot to where they're comfortable with what they can pick. And I don't think that they have a full idea of what... I don't think they came in with a strategy.
Right.
I think they're being completely reactive to that first pick Medivh. Their bans are there. They see Tychus on the other side. They've got to be wondering what Denial has left for them. The good thing for them is that they can pick up maybe something a little bit more neutral here, leave that last pick to be something a little bit more flexible and reactive to what Denial has, but try and use that as an advantage to counter what they're coming in with. I mean, Denial has so many possibilities. They're going to go with Thrall. That's a safe pick to me.
I agree. The Thrall was probably one of the most safe, standard, stable picks that Murloc Geniuses could have possibly chosen. They will need something to beef up that front line. The Thrall serves that role as a secondary bruiser, and now their last range pick can, augment their lineup in a way that enables them to play this Towers of Doom. Denial slamming the Kerrigan.
I was getting ready to ask, can we see Kerrigan now? I mean, we already saw what Glaurung can do on Kerrigan on Tomb of the Spider Queen. And of course, with that added protection there, it's easy to follow up on combos. You have the extra protection from Medivh, and it also doesn't put them in the same position as last time, where it's like, do we have enough damage? Now you've got plenty.
Is Emerald Wind an absolute go-to against this? Denial Esports has huge amounts of
Could this possibly
control.
be a Tassadar to help
Maybe.
for protection? You have plenty of damage between Thrall, Leeming, possibly. But do you need more damage, or do you want to try and have more protection against the comp like this?
My concern is that Tassadar doesn't save the target from the Kerrigan combo. They still get comboed and still probably die because you would only have that Bribing Tassadar. It's not enough. The Ariel, I think, is a much better pick against Kerrigan.
Yeah.
We've been talking all weekend about how Ariel serves to completely halt the momentum of a fight, and Kerrigan is the kind of hero that relies on forward momentum during a team fight to succeed.
I've got to ask now that I see the Oriel coming in as last pick for Murloc Geniuses, the Tychus ban on the side of Denial Esports, would that not have been better served? Trying to target something that could have then gone up against the Kerrigan Uther?
The only way the Tychus ban makes sense to me is if they were looking at Leoric and then decided to audible because of the Brightwing steal away. That's the only universe where the Tychus ban makes sense to me, because if you have any plan to go Kerrigan Uther, I don't think you even consider the Tychus ban for a second.
Yeah, I mean, the audible you call out, it's just like Omaha, you try and get that audible in there. And I think that's, again, I love the fact that they picked up the Thrall on that and allowed them to basically pick what they wanted and counteract anything. This is 2 games in a row now we're seeing double support. And you talk about Kerrigan, they can punish Kerrigan when she comes in. Thrall actually does okay on that front line. Then Li Ming's going to be very well protected with that double support. And if anything gets crazy, the Crystal's going to come out. So I think there's a lot on the table for Murloc, but we saw them on this map before. things looked really good for them. They were very reactionary to everything, and they punished a lot of what came towards them. And then the wheels fell off. And they couldn't deal with the pressure.
Yeah.
Glaurung puts a lot of pressure on you when he's on Kerrigan and you have that Divine Shield and the threat of the mosh pit, all of that. Can they deal with the pressure?
Aside from some of the more isolated incidents, has Ariel, for the NA scene, unlocked the double support meta?
It really seems like she has. Almost 2/3, I would say, of the double support games have been Ariel.
Yep.
And I wonder if there's just some interaction there that makes even the other side double support more popular because of that. But again, I think Psalm on Ariel is going to be so critical this game to halt Glaurung's Kerrigan's momentum.
It's going to be, to me, Glaurung again. He's got to be able to be the playmaker for this group comp. He's got to be able to follow up on King Caffeine. So that's the combo that I'm looking for between those two guys.
All right, it is time. Game number 2. Currently, Murloc Geniuses leads 1-0 here in the grand final of the North American Regional as we head over to the Xfinity casting desk once again for game number 2.
All right, here we go with Murloc Geniuses up 1-0 in this grand finals best of 5. But Denial bringing back the Medivh plays, this time with Kerrigan.
Yeah, the Medivh-Kerrigan combo, somebody we know Glaurung is going to be very comfortable on, so we'll see if they're going to have the success with that as we saw versus Astral Authority, absolutely obliterating them. 5-level lead last time we saw Glaurung on type hero, that type of hero, so we'll see if that holds true as we move on. But I think the Ariel pick was a pretty smart pickup, a really good momentum killer for Kerrigan, which we know she's going to be wanting to just snowball those combos.
Yeah, whomever gets caught in the combo, that's who they'll be wanting to focus down. And so if Oriel is there to throw out Crystal Aegis, then that will stop that. But Denial also has False Step. They have maybe the ability to combo someone in and gust Oriel away, so she can't even get to that point. And in that time of the slow where they're getting back to the point, they can take someone out.
Yeah, and we already see a really interesting laning situation here on the side of Murloc Geniuses, knowing their opponents want to group up and kind of deathball, going with a 2-1-2 with 2 people in the mid and bottom half, knowing that's the rotations. As I say that, though, stun into the wall there against Caffeine. Glaurung now in their eyes. Fury may look to get a Stormbolt instead, looking to make the rotation and worry about minions a bit more, but they've done a very good job, and I mean, that pretty much sums it up. That tweet's about perfect. Murgalurgalurgalurg is really the only thing you can be feeling right now.
For eternity, that tweet goes on. The Murloc Geniuses hype is real. I would be interested to see, hopefully we'll get to see a poll again at some point to see if it's still in favor of Denial, because Denial did beat Murloc Geniuses 2-0 in the group stage, but Murloc's looking fiery in game number 1. What do you question? You've got this look.
That was just not the portal decision I expected there. If anything, it gave away Kerrigan's positioning in a situation where they didn't necessarily have to. I just figured if you were going to port, you might do it like over a wall or something of the like, rather than just like Kerrigan walk through and it's like, all right, I'm headed out. That was fun. It was a good try. Good job, June. Staying back. But I mean, it's not the end of the world here. We'll see if Denial is going to be able to get the combo. So far, we see a very patient play on the side of Murlocs, realizing that the Kerrigan combo with the ETC is something they don't want to be able to deal with. And Glaurung's going to have to dance around the map, very slow rotations, trying not to show himself whenever possible.
Yeah, for a long time, Cattle was even sitting just mounted, didn't want to let the minion wave push out too far, help it so that he could stay safe and run back behind the gate if Caffeine and Glaurung presented themselves in his lane, and no picks at all for Denial. They have a slight experience advantage. They've picked up their 4 talents, but just now, altars are going to spawn, and it will be 3 of them.
Yeah, and I actually really like this choice here from Murloc Geniuses. We saw, actually, as I say that, the stun there coming out onto Psalm. He's in a bad spot, taking a lot of damage, but the counter response, good polymorph as well. iDream sees a little bit of damage there as the shots have concluded here for the teams, except for the bottom shrine. Combo comes in. That's going to be a 2-man there with the Medivh shield. Nobody going down quite yet as K1 trying to get the harass killing.
Hammer of Justice follow-up was great, but it was Fury who's nice and tanky and not the ideal target for what you're hoping for with a big combo. So now the teams will duke it out 5v5 at this mid altar. But Murloc Geniuses, they're fairly low. Fury wants to go in to get the stun. There's a sacred sweep from Psalm as well. That was kind of difficult tongue twister to say, but so far nobody has picked up this altar.
Yeah, not nearly as good as Seismic Slam splash damage, but now June ends up getting the combo onto him. Great Medivh shield is going to negate an insane amount of damage as Psalm ends up getting a relatively good combo and huge heals there coming out from the Ariel so far in this game. And what I thought was going to be Murlocs giving up this, and turns out they decide they want that skirmish even though their opponent does have that early game Kerrigan-esque play style.
Murloc Geniuses Psalm has been on point with detainment strikes, the setup and positioning for that so that he can make sure to get stuns out of that. And June's starting to channel APM, and the rest of Denial are going to have to start to come in if they want to stop June from grabbing this next altar.
Yeah, and APM ended up using his golden frisbee there, and great zone from Fury will confirm the second tribute here. Murloc Genius is able to get the 8 shots of the early game here on Towers of Doom. But Kerrigan combo so far is yet to get a kill here for Denial Esports. It's something that we know she kind of falls off a bit when it comes to the scaling. Granted, she's got a double failsafe in the sense having 2 major invulnerability shields is something that is going to be able to benefit her team fighting far more than if we see it just as a solo Uther.
And even Gust, too, if she really gets into trouble. So they have all the tools to let Kerrigan do her thing, but a lot comes down to Glaurung, as that often does for Denial's team fights.
Yeah, that's pretty much the story of any team we've seen Glaurung in over his competitive career so far. But as we say that now, teams are going to be starting the camp on the bottom right here. Brightwing still getting the soak as best she can. A little bit of harass. Keep in mind, we do have Triumvirate there on the side. Oh, man, huge orb as well for the Li Ming player here, which is going to be Cawthon and this team. And it's just, if he, right there, that value he's going to be getting over and over again, delaying as long as he can around those tribs. And I think that's going to do a lot of work, considering that they have 2 shield-specific heroes, and it's going to be hard to predict as many as he's going to be throwing out in this game.
These pumpkin sappers are all running into the structures, and that annihilates 2 towers in the bottom lane, opening up for a future push for Murloc Geniuses later when they want to start playing the Bell Tower game that they know and love. This is, of course, Murloc Geniuses' battleground pick, and it's been a consistent pick for them. They understand Towers of Doom. They were one of the first teams, really, to start playing it even when it came out, competitively picking it, because they picked it up really fast, and they've shown how much they can do on it.
And we do see Brightwing ended up going with the cleanse there at level 7, so she'll be able to help when it comes to the combo on to the Kerrigan, not forcing the Aegis as a soft response no matter what. 8 seconds here. We are going to have the next 2 shrines. As I say that, though, Cattle getting stunned out there. Double combo at the portal. Should be able to get him out for a short period of time, but solid harass on the side of Murloc.
June has set up so we can start channeling the far left altar with no problem at all. APM on the other side doing the same. They're just going to trade out, not looking for any extra aggression, maybe on the side of Denial, maybe looking for combos in a follow-up power side. Nope, we're just going to trade these out.
See, and that's a situation where we saw in the first game, all of the tributes were going over to Denial, and it seemed like they had a very strong control. As I say that, though, June actually getting some out. He's dead. I mean, there's no way around that one. But again, it comes down to, yes, they are trading shots, but Denial has the aggressive early game composition. They need to be successful in the early half of this game because the momentum kill that comes out of the Brightwing, of the Aegis there coming out from Ariel, and I mean, Sundering's another one, not even to touch about Wave of 4. So many good tools that Murloc Geniuses have. They need to be the ones that's not willing to go blow for blow and trade for trade, because I really feel that they're going to get outscaled as this game goes on, unless Falstad, man, plays out of his mind.
And meanwhile, Murloc Geniuses need to be vigilant. They can't allow people to get caught out just like June did. That's only one, but they can start to stack up, especially as respawn timers get longer later on.
And as we say that now, Caffeine not going to be able to get around to get the body block onto Cattle, and it looks like they may try and turn it as well. The Sappers are not going to be killed quite yet. Oh, the stun onto Glaurung. Good force of will going to be able to keep him up, but it looks like Murloc Geniuses is not done.
No, Fury wants to go back in. Detainment strike from Oriole hits King Caffeine into a corner. Nobody puts ETC into a corner, though.
And as we say that, you don't put ETC in a corner, but you don't. Oh my goodness, the shield coming out. Polybomb as well. That's going to be a combo. 2 people dead, almost a third here, and what was a rough chase there for Murloc Geniuses turned into a bloodbath for Denial.
Denial was so close to 10. They got heroic abilities. That's Heroes 101. You don't get into a fight when you don't have heroics that your opponents do.
They thought they were going to be able to get the kill, get the 10 spike before their opponents. Turns out not the case. 20 HP. ETC says, no thank you here. Ends up putting himself in a pretty spot. Glaurung trying to get cheeky here, but this is going to be a free, potentially free. It looks like Thrall has something else to say. Channel here with level 11, 2-9 here for Denial Esports, already having a very commanding lead over that skirmish.
Cattle too late to join Uther at the altar party, and that is tied up altars, or tied up core health for the teams. Murloc Geniuses has been putting a lot of emphasis again on mercenary camps in the second game, like they were in the last one, stealing pumpkin sappers away and getting out before Denial can do anything about it.
I think that's one of their greatest strengths, not only when it comes to a team and understanding the macro, but then also Denial's composition almost always is dependent on getting those team fights whenever possible. So putting them in a position to say, hey, do you want the sapling? Do you want the team fight that you want? And I think it's a really good heads-up choice. Murloc's really putting Denial, again, just min-maxing what they're good at, what Denial's poor at in a lot of situations here.
Well, Murlocs are behind and losing that catastrophic fight. They're full level behind Denial, so they need to catch up on that, making sure that Brightwing is getting all the soak that she needs and that they're getting soak in every lane because they want to catch up to that. They don't want to force or face Denial down a talent tier when the next Alter phase hits.
Yeah, it's going to be a rough spot, and the Shrine should be spawning soon. A lot of members on the bottom half trying to get the clear onto the Sappers. That's Kerrigan hiding down there as well, so they have an opportunity to make a play up here. But, I mean, Murloc Geniuses seem to be equally patient when it comes to the rotations. They're afraid if they go for a gank, suddenly it'll be ETC Kerrigan out of the shrub. So they're trying to be as patient as possible. Now, 30 seconds, we will have a Shrine, and possible 13-tier advantage here for Denial. I think they're going to be able to get that soak with False Stab.
By the way, it's not Blink Heal for Brightwing. We have Emerald Wind. So if something happens like the last, where there was ETC and Glaurung, and something might be happening right now, actually, Detainment Strike and Polymorph not quite getting a stun on Glaurung, and he gets out alive, but Alter spawning in just a couple of seconds, and Murlocs have the position advantage.
And though Murlocs was able to pull ahead, they're actually using the Q on the side of Falsehead, not even to get the delay. K1 Pro ends up getting it with the portal there. Very good job. But again, even though that started to look bad for Denial Esports, they were very split on their choice from Murlocs who they're going to focus. Stormbolt didn't go onto the kill target here as they end up dancing around one another, trying to figure out the posture, and just end up walking away.
That was best case scenario for Murlocs too, because they were down 13. 13's, like I've heard you say, not the end of the world, but still nice to be able to get that despite it.
Yeah, there's very few heroes. I guess not so much anymore. Back in the day, it was a lot worse than it is now, but very few power spikes that are just impossible to take on at the 13 tier. They have gotten a bit stronger. Obviously, anytime you're behind a talent, it's not great to take the fight into, but 13, probably some of the lesser so than some of the other heroes. But I mean, Falsehead is one, for instance, that just thrives. It used to be Kel'Thas back in the day, but now we do see that the teams are just kind of dancing around, waiting for the trips for the most part, because Denial, they have the skirmish comp, and we see Murlocs has kind of that wave clear, dominate the map later on, so and they're just trying to get 13.
And getting quickening for Medivh is great too, because when you pair that with Stable Portal at level 1, then there's only 1 second of downtime before you have Portal back up again, because it's increasing duration and decreasing cooldown. So now a lot more ability to dance the fight, make sure that the right people are taking damage, and then eventually pounce on somebody once they step out of position.
Yeah, that is going to be true here. And Sapper's combo as well with the portal. That is going to be a stun. And Cattle seems to be going down. Aegis is going to land, though. He is going to be able to stay up now because of that. The counter response. Murden's trying to get the flank. Brightwing's not teleporting yet, so we do see Denial Esports got a really good aggression there with their portal play, only forcing 1 heroic, though, on the side of Murloc Geniuses.
But that goes to show what it'll be like versus Oriole for combos. It does not guarantee a kill, even in the best of situations. Now 13 is here, Murloc Geniuses is behind in experience, but they're still going to be able to take this triple Alter spawn on the same talent tier, and we'll see how they start to set up. Nobody in the bottom. They want to fight over these ones in the top, but Fury might be in trouble here.
No Aegis is available either, and that's a huge amount of damage coming out to Catalyst. He's trying to withdraw. That is iDream going over the wall. Glaurung confirming the kill with the Ravage, getting the reset. Emerald Wind coming in a little bit too late, and that is going to be 1 kill. Now a combo. That is going to be 2 here, going over to Denial Esports in that skirmish.
And that might be all 3 altars, because Falstad has already gotten down to the bottom one. Fury is jumped on by Glaurung, and they're going to zone them away from, zone Murloc Geniuses away from their own side altar. Look at all of the shots wreck the blue core. There's 1 more altar left. Denial say there's even a few seconds until you have your entire team. We'll take this boss too and maximize every chance to get core shots.
And they're going in here trying to get damage and pull Denial Esports off of this Headless Horseman. It does so much damage. Medivh's shield coming into play. Gus as well to zone them off. APM eating a big orb, but he's going to be able to stay up. Glaurung getting the dance back and forth. Cawthon, you know he wants to try and get the pick here. They're so desperate to force before they get 16. Great shield, and that is going to be a mosh pit in response.
And mosh pit hits a couple of people, but it's just going to allow the rest of the team of Denial to disengage, as does Caffeine with a power slide. 16 to 13 for Denial. Not a place you want to be for Murloc Geniuses, especially after taking, what, 16 shots at once?
Yeah.
Out of that phase? That's the best you can play a phase.
I mean, that's about it. That's a pretty dream ideal situation for them. And as we say that, Murloc Geniuses now is going to run around the map and try and get as much pressure as they can. They don't have 16, and they're still willing to risk this fight. Combo going in, not going to hit anybody yet. Good amount of heals. Cattle, though, under so much pressure. Emerald Wind is going to try and split them, Gilly, and that's going to be an Aegis.
And King Caffeine is there on the other side and jumps in. Thrall will be the first one to go, and he's on the chase again. Here comes Glaurung jumping in, a stun immediately to follow up, trying to stop him from getting the combo off, but Psalm way away from all of the rest of Murlocs that remain, and that'll be a second kill for Denial.
Yeah, Denial is just slowly snowballing this game. With 16 tier advantage, it's going to be very hard for Murloc Geniuses to be able to come back. This map is not that bad. Oh, look at K1 Pro. He's going to look for an aggressive portal. There it is.
Here's the jump.
Oh, huge amount of leap there. Good gust as well. Fury is under a lot of pressure, but that is going to be a double reset there. Maybe getting a little bit too cheeky as K1 Pro's on retreat. There is another portal just now available. Good shield. He's going to be able to get out of here, but really good job from Murloc Geniuses punishing that aggressive play.
Cattle Filler comes from the side flanks, and with the Sundering, they've not gotten another kill yet, but it's getting close. K1 Pro is jumping back and forth, gets into Raven form, is invulnerable, and the rest of Denial escape.
And right as I said, this game is very hard to be able to lose if you are Denial Esports. They do the one thing that can put themselves out of the driver's seat here. 16 tier will be achieved during the double shot. They do have a global to be able to get there just in time, and they're going to be able to confirm this bell tower as well. So now 5 shots, 10 potentially are at risk here for them. As they get a stun onto him, that's going to be a great mosh pit on the backline, going to be instantly polymorph, Gilly. It's not looking good for Denial.
No, he had to get out of there. He being King Caffeine power slid away, but Falstad flew into the altar in mid and is not going to get stuck. Actually, he turns around, Glaurung pulls somebody in, he's gonna go right back into the fight, and we're going for a 5v5. He has Force of Will and Divine Shield to build up his shielding.
Yeah, but that was stacked. Now Dwarf Toss coming in, getting a large amount of damage there, and Combo is gonna be focused on the Fury. Aegis coming into play. K1 Pro is on the retreat. Polybomb getting a little bit of value, spreading a little bit farther than they may like here, as it is 5 versus 5. All heroics except for Gus and Wave of Force are still available for these teams. 16 tier between the two. Good stun coming out here, Gilly, but this could mean a lot for either team. Potentially a colossal momentum swing for Murloc Geniuses.
But they have not a lot of heroics left. Importantly, they have Sundering though. Cattle is chasing down APM on one side and the zoning from the rest secures them an altar with 5 more shots.
And that was just ridiculous. A 2-level lead with 12 roughly shots advantage for Denial Esports. One little dive to be clever there, and they have cost themselves a lot. 1 level, half a level even behind here. Shots everywhere. Sunder's going to split the seas, but not confirm anything here as Cattle is under so much pressure from that combo. He gets into the death wall. Face Melt's going to knock Fury as well, and now iDream has his eyes on Koth.
He's chasing after Koth, and he has Gus too if he wants to push Psalm and Fury and the rest of friends back into the side, but there are some pumpkins that are being dealt with. 2 kills for Denial, and this is way back and forth.
Yeah, these teams, man, the minute they move past those bell towers, suddenly things get a bit hairy for all of them. It's not nearly as detrimental as it was on the side of Denial and their decision-making to dive as it was for Murlocs here in this situation, because they are not going to lose too many shots. They're going to be able to spawn, take the fight, but Denial has secured a bigger advantage here towards level 20, which may deny a lot here, as the shots will be spawning soon. Bell tower now confirmed 4-4 for both these teams. This is just a bloodbath. I don't know.
It is
just
a
ridiculous.
Bloodbath. Denial, that gave them time to pick up their bell tower now, though, so it's 4v4, and they are, like you said, very close to getting Storm Talons, at least much closer than Murlocs are. They still have 3 levels to go. But Murlocs, once again, going back to the age-old comfort for them, picking up some Pumpkin Sappers, so those will be pushing along with an altar. It's only 1 spawning down in the bottom, so that's a pretty good scenario, I guess, for Murloc Geniuses. They don't have to try to go back and forth. They still have time before Denial gets 20.
Yeah, and we see Denial is making the rotation down here. They only have a small time frame where they will be able to get this fight before 20 comes into play. Patiently waiting in the shrub. K1 Pro is getting the scout. Glaurung now revealing himself. They want to get rid of the sappers, but they also want to stop the shrine here. They'll see what they opt into. iDream trying to get the clear cap going in, though, and so is Glaurung.
And Glaurung jumps in. Maelstrom's been used in the back. Nobody is stopping this mosh pit because it's a divine shielded mosh. Force of Will allows him to do that because Glaurung could still stay healthy, but nobody went down from that mosh. King Caffeine very low. Great polymorph there from June. And members of Denial, despite having Force of Will and having an Uther 2, they're still getting very low. The double support from Murloc's coming in a lot more handily for them.
Fury is the MVP of this fight so far. He's been able to stop 2 of the caps here in the chaos that Denial is forcing. With that, that's going to be a stun. The Dwarf does it, and he's going to be going down. Kerrigan and Glorong are now on the retreat here. Denial is trying to back out, and they are going to be able to confirm the shots for Murloc Geniuses, but they're not done yet. Good force of will, keeping him up. Dwarf toss again, confirming a stun. Polybomb, gonna get a lot of value, but we're gonna split. Never mind, I've never seen it get 3. That was pretty good. But now we're going to see that the shots are going over to Murloc Geniuses. And again, Fury legitimately single-handedly won his team that fight 2 times. They gave up on the fight. We're trying to get the cap in. They're playing off of K1 Pro with the portals, and he always was making sure you were never going to be able to get that.
I thought maybe they wanted to see if they could get more kills and go after the bell tower before they picked up the altar, but after that big polybomb, they're like, okay, that's fine. We'll just get this altar. We'll go for something else. They're going to be able to take out this mid bell tower, and that will start the dance back and forth that Denial will have to deal with, defending and help Murloc Geniuses get ever closer to catching back up to 20.
Yeah, the most important thing about that is it is 100% confirmed that Murloc Geniuses will be able to get that 20 at the same time as Denial when the next shots spawn. It's a really good position to be in for them. Gonna get the pressure on the map and also have a double sapling set opportunity on the bottom. Possibly could be able to confirm the bell tower here. 20 advantage, using it already, going in there. Solom has a lot of damage. Good cleanse though, coming out from June, but Glorong's not done. He goes for the bolt, and that's a D-shield and ever win. So many resources used and not even close to a reasonable fight to be able to take on the side of Denial.
Wow. Maelstrom, Divine Shield, Mighty Gust, all
June's
used
just sitting there.
there.
Worth? That is about all he's thinking. Like, that was a cleanse, and we were able to get out of that. Emerald win, that's okay. That's a cooldown that's going to be up quick. Divine Shield is such a important tool for Denial to have. It not only stops the potential full mosh pit, it is huge for Kerrigan to be able to have because, yes, though, Kerrigan can get the force of will. It doesn't stop her from the CC, but it doesn't look like they're done. Even down these heroics, they're willing to take this fight because we see that Murloc Geniuses is not 20 yet.
They use Polybomb too, so that's another heroic for Denial, but that's a shorter cooldown. Altar's about to spawn. It will be 2 of them, and Murloc's finally about to get 20. It's taken so long to get to this point, but they're about to have it now and have to be feeling good about this fight, knowing that a lot of heroic abilities aren't up yet for the start of this Altar phase.
Yeah, and because of that, I would like to see them be on the aggressive here. The upper right is still going to be available to them. K1 Pro is already looking to get some poke out wherever he can onto Cawthon. Caffeine taking a bit of harass. Cawthon needs to make sure he stays with the group here. Again, their composition thrives when they're together, but not so much if they split up. K1 Pro wants to get that chaos with the portals. If they try and get the delay.
iDream is sitting in mid, watching to see where he can fly in. Brightwing's starting to channel, and Kerrigan's jumping in on him. Emerald
That
Wind has been used.
polybomb.
Polybomb, it's a lot of people. Don't take it into the rest of your team. Sundering hit.
That's
is
a reset.
Kerrigan popping 1 reset. Medivh is down. Divine Shield probably not going to save the rest of you, Denial. That'll be a 3rd. Thank you very much. Murloc Geniuses win this fight.
Yeah, and if they are going to be able to confirm 1 to 2 more kills, they 100% can confirm the game. Actually taking those shots, playing it safe, taking the boss battle instead. APM now is going down as well. They'll take the boss here. It is all down to a legendary Mosh Maelstrom. Or excuse me, Gust is not even available either. We have the fall set, will be there, but it's not going to be it. There is almost no way that the Mosh pit can stop this. They have nobody to kill. That's going to be it. Murloc Geniuses here. They're going to be able to take this game. Really good job from them, holding their composure in what looked like a game that for once they might not lose, and then they turn it around. That one fight on mid. That was it.
I am amazed by Murloc Geniuses. Last set and this set, their patience, their shot calling. Obviously, they understand Towers of Doom. It's a comfort zone for them, but even on Cursed Hollow versus Denial, a home turf, if you will, for Denial. They're able to win, and now in the grand finals, up 2-0. 1 game away from a clean sweep, even.
Definitely 1 step away, and we also have to keep in mind this is the lifeline for Gale Force Esports, slowly beating there. Never going to be able to give up and flatline, but we'll figure it out. For now, we're going to go to a quick break, but we'll be back with the grand finals here between Murloc Geniuses and Denial Esports in just a bit.
To all agents of Overwatch, look around. War. Criminals. Someone has to do something. We can make a difference again. The world needs us more than ever. We are justice.
We are courage. We are hope.
We are Overwatch. Are you with me?
Overwatch. Play it now on PC and console. Rated T for Teen.
This is a place of funky magical phenomena. Anything goes for one night in Kansas.
All right, 2-0 now for Murloc Geniuses here in the grand finals, going up against Denial Esports for our North American Regional number 2 here. Denial came in confident and strong, but it seems like Murloc Geniuses at the moment have their number. Will they go the clean sweep? Let's head into some of the highlights here from those games, Jay Howe.
I mean, this is one of the highlights that we see the Divine Shield with the Maj there. It was one of the times it was executed, but I think this is the moment where I got a little bit excited because you're going to see a portal, I think, come in, and then the Detainment Strike helps secure the lockdown. I mean, those are the types of things that you get the type of displacement off of those portals. You get good value out of it. It helps you secure kills, gets the lockdown, and doesn't allow for that exit strategy. Right here. There it is. Left side.
Solemn had a really good Detainment Strike there. Pretty much instantaneous when Kerrigan went through the portal. No opportunity to react, combo that backline. And we saw multiple times Kerrigan would go for combos on backline targets, on Thrall, and they would just get Crystal Aegis. And it was like Kerrigan had to stand there and be like, oh, guys, what do I do? They probably already used D-Shield. They commit so many resources to get those combos, like portaling into the backline, and it's all your momentum is just immediately halted when that target goes invulnerable.
If any game was a good clinic as to why Auriel is good in the current meta, I think this is one of them. She constantly had value with a Crystal Aegis, with Containment Strike, etc., and just the raw healing that she's probably putting out during these games, right?
I mean, there was the one thing that I talked about with the players during the weekend is that and this was actually, I think, kind of, I don't want to say invented, but it was showcased by Breeze over in the European Regional, is that when you see Medivh come through there, he was running a lot of ETC to push them off of that portal. And at that last pickup of Auriel, I think the Detainment Strike, the minute somebody comes through, there was no hesitation. And the fact that that wall was there, they get the stun, then they get the lockdown. It allows you to punish people coming through. And I think that's a really good counter to Medivh, especially with people that like to get a little bit fancy with those dives.
All right, well, next map's going to be Sky Temple. Is this the map, seen as it's Denial Esports map, for them to come back? Do they have the chops here to be able to come back on this map?
They have what it takes if they can just refocus and work together as a team again. In that last composition, I think part of the problem was they're used to playing these chaos-style Medivh compositions, but in that game, they had a Kerrigan who needs support resources. So whenever they went for those crazy, I'm way on the side flanking skirmishes, the Uther wasn't in range to save the Kerrigan, couldn't de-shield him. That's how the last fight got lost. So I think if they just calm down, play more standard, don't go so crazy, and, you know, do all the weird fighting, just go with the strats you've practiced.
That's actually what I wanted to ask, is that do you think that they've come in with that kind of Chaos Comp style in mind, just to then know that they are far more practiced on it than any other team probably here, but then halfway through the draft they're like, but Kerrigan Uther's available still. Do you think that's the kind of thing that we will see maybe in that draft moving forwards? What do you think?
I mean, this is, I think, one of the things that we talked about. It's just like, we don't see traditional drafts. I mean, they'll even run that solo Leoric just kind of to twist things up a little bit. And this is what we've seen for days now. They've gone undefeated, and then all of a sudden they're here in the finals. They're going against a very skilled, very seasoned team in Murloc Geniuses who lost to them already. It looks like Murlocs might have learned their lesson. They're still having a very tough time. I don't think Denial is out of this by any means. They're playing well. It's just that when it comes to those key moments, they seem to be making the minor errors that are costing them the game.
And on the flip side of things, this seems to be a different Murloc Geniuses than we saw in day one of the tournament. Day one of the tournament, they were just doing whatever they wanted, and now they look solid.
That's absolutely something else I wanted to touch on. In the beginning of the tournament, we saw absurd drafts from Murlocs, and now they're going standard, and I love it.
All right, into the draft now, brought to us by Auros. Once again, here, Zagara and Greyman in the bands with plenty of picks already on the board, boys.
All right, so we already saw it once, and I wouldn't put it out of question for us to see a potential another Tracer pick. This is a good map for her because she has that room to work around. It's something that when we see Tracer players, they tend to like a little bit more room to work. It allows you to dive in and then blink out, so you have a gap to be able to put between you and the enemy. So that first pick, Brightwing, again, it always makes me wonder, are they going to be looking to that double support? Are they going to be looking at kind of twisting things up? You talk about what we saw. Remember at the bottom left on Cursed Hollow, they went for that kill on Fallstand by using that Brightwing to come in with that Tracer, and those are comps, and that's the kind of play style that they like to have.
The beginning of this draft definitely looks like Denial could be setting up for that Tracer play, but after Murlocs dealt with it so easily, it seemed like, on Cursed Hollow, I'd be a little concerned if they went with it here. This time, they do have the last pick, so they don't have to commit to picking the Tracer until they know whether Murlocs has that double support that proved to be too much for Tracer to handle.
I've got to ask you, Jay, how one of the things we came into this series with is that does the power level decrease on Murloc Geniuses if Zagara is banned out? Each time it's been banned out, and each time Murloc Geniuses is just one regardless of not having it. So it hasn't really affected them too much.
It hasn't been effective. And again, this is a team, not individuals that are sitting here required to make plays. What they've managed to do as a team. I said this at the first regional because everybody's like, oh, it might have been a little bit of a fluke that Murloc comes in. I said, no way. They had such good individual players come together and create this wonderful core of a team. There's a reason they're here. They're up 2-0. I mean, this right here is a very standard draft for Murlocs. On the other side, you've got Denial. This screams a potential Illidan to me right now. This right here, it allows for them to get the dive. It's an Illidan Tracer style comp. I'm not sold on it, but as you said, the fact that they have the last pick, I think allows them to run something like that.
The pick in this fourth slot, though, is going to pretty much decide the direction their composition goes. If they go for another support, then they're pretty much locked in to doing something like that Illidan. On the other hand, they could go another frontline and then probably round it out with a support, but...
Jaina incoming?
Ooh. We saw one team attempt to do Ring of Frost Void Prison, and none landed.
Stop. Just don't even go there. Anyway. It was bad. So Murloc Geniuses, 2 picks left. 2 picks left here. What do you think, Jay Howe?
I think for Murloc, we're going to see somebody join on the front. I wouldn't be surprised if they might even run something like a Tychus.
Yeah.
You know, it's something that they've ran on this map before. Caterpillar puts in there. But I really like the Thrall pickup that they had last game. It allowed them to dictate a lot of fights. They got a little bit out of control on that one Sunder that was really, really greedy. But outside of that, I thought they got a ton of value out of Thrall in that Sunder. So I think you can look for them to solidify the front line or at least that mid-range game with Tychus. But they're going to go Kerrigan Uther themselves. Why not? Why not?
Disrespect here to Denial. Murloc is like, haha, you guys ran Kerrigan Uther, we beat you, now we're going to run Kerrigan Uther.
It's almost exactly the same comp as the previous one that Denial Esports had, other than Medivh for Li Meng. Other than that, it's exactly the same.
It is nearly exactly the same, and honestly, I think the Li Meng is better than the Medivh in this composition. We saw Denial, they used those Q portals, they used that Force of Will, but it felt like they consistently couldn't quite get the kill. They couldn't quite secure that last little bit that they needed. So the Li Meng being able to combo off of that Kerrigan and then start the reset chain is unbelievable, but I really like the Medivh last pick against Kerrigan.
All right, Dunk, I got to open this discussion. All right, so one of our concerns in one of the earlier games was, do they have enough damage? Now, Zeratul going to get poke damage, and this was one of the things I talked about the other day when you and I were off camera, is that if you can put enough damage onto Zeratul when he first comes in, it puts the threat on it, and the only thing you can really do post-13 is just wormhole in and wormhole out. You have to commit a lot. They only have a solo Brightwing. It's not like you're going to burst heal up a Zeratul. And then we're only looking at Medivh and Sylvanas. Sylvanas' numbers always look good because of the spread of that Shadow Dagger, but it's not necessarily that effective kill potential damage.
Definitely.
Is this another concern that we're running into?
It has to be a concern. You're playing against Uther, and you're trying to kill a backline target with just Zeratul damage and maybe a Wailing Arrow. Honestly, I think Denial is going to have to outmaneuver their opponents very hard here in order to get those kills that they're looking for. But Murloc's composition is so scary. You can't just walk into that composition. There's a Kerrigan. And every time Kerrigan is in the game, you have to play around it.
It's a Kerrigan and then a Li Meng combo behind the combo. So somebody is going to get blown up if they do not play their cards right. If Force of Will, for example, on Medivh's side of things, is not absolutely on point and then they out-sustain. But as you're mentioning, the potential ineffective damage from Sylvanas coming out and not really doing too much is quite concerning. This could potentially be a 3-0 sweep here, Jay Howe.
It's a big concern for me. This is 3 games in a row that I have to say that all eyes are going to continue to be on Glaurung and that Zeratul play. He has to make the plays, and I'm not sure if this team is what that's built for.
You're totally right, Jay Howe. I think in this whole series, it's been a bit of the Glaurung show, and that's not what it looked like when they looked so good before.
Right.
So I'm concerned for Denial here. They are tournament life on the line.
All right, yeah, indeed. They need to eke this one out. Otherwise, they will not be going home the North American champions. Murloc Geniuses at the moment looking strong here as we head over to the Xfinity casting desk with, of course, Dread and Gillyweed.
All right, we're back with potentially the final game of the Grand Finals. Match point for Murloc Geniuses here at PAX West, the second North American Regional. It is do or die for Denial now, Dread.
I think Dunk put it best. It is the Glaurung show, and it has been this entire grand finals. But it doesn't mean necessarily that he's excelled that much. It's just they keep building compositions that are based around Glaurung has to play out of his mind if they're going to be successful. We've seen this in the past when it comes to Glaurung and his time as a competitive Heroes players. And a majority of the time, this is the first time ever to a grand finals. We saw earlier, when it wasn't the Glaurung show, they did very well. The best success that Glaurung has ever seen, and it seems to be strange to watch them slowly reverting back to it. So, he's going to have to make it worth it here, because if he doesn't, this is potentially his last game, definitely to get first seed and confirming an opportunity to BlizzCon.
Do you think that diverting back to the Glaurung show, if you will, is because it's the Grand Finals and they're nervous, this is it, they've got to win this, they don't have to play that tiebreaker match versus Gale Force Esports? Or do you think it's because Murloc Geniuses have been putting just enough pressure on Denial in the drafting phase, on Glaurung specifically, that it's caused that panic?
I think it's not even just Glaurung. It's, APM, we can't, nobody can neglect the fact that APM has been very limited when it comes to his hero pool. A majority of the strategies are based around putting K1 Pro onto a secondary support or a support-esque hero. So I think it's very realistic that it is a lot of the draft pressure they put on that, because the limited hero pools that exist on the side of Denial slowly choke them into a position to where it's like, well, we can't get away with what we wanted, so now we have to go into what we used to do. And what they used to do was not make it out of groups.
Right. What happened before, as Cattle comes in, Polymorph to stop Kerrigan from getting a combo and let Glaurung get away. But what they did before at Burbank, Murloc Geniuses drafted in a way that forced APM to be on either Karzim or Rhaegar. To stop this, now he's on Brightwing. Cawthon will drop K1 Pro, getting that kill, which is a great time to do that for the first Temple phase.
Yeah, really big advantage for them. And another thing to shout out to when it comes to this game, actually, gonna try and get that combo. No, they're just gonna steal away the middle shrine. But Without a doubt, for Cloud9, when it was the entirety of Cloud9, this was their best map. I think it's carrying over to Denial. They don't have necessarily the longest of track hit record, but it's really a map that those 3 core members seem to have just been so successful on for some time. I expect them to have that same presence here in this potentially final game for them.
Denial had people sit around Vision for a long time while Murloc Geniuses were working on this mid temple. They do have Brightwing in the bottom lane, but now this temple will be done a long time ahead.
On the bottom half, goes in for the combo on a Brightwing, but she's going to be trying to get out there. Oh, ends up missing the combo, but APM doesn't have any tools.
Patient.
There it is. He's out.
He is gone from that sticky situation. And the rest of the temple, Murlocs weren't able to try to get in and contest for some of those final shots. So Denial playing this out well. Look how low this top fort is. It's nearly gone. It should be pretty easy to get that and then be able to focus more on the bottom temple in the next phase.
It's another situation, though, where we see Murloc Geniuses doesn't necessarily have the most successful of an early game, but they sure do not lose when that happens. They are winning when it comes to experience, slightly, not really. This is a pretty big wave in mid, and I believe that there's going to be another one elsewhere, but they just never fall behind. They never let you truly snowball that lead, and then as it gets to the late game, they seem to have the superior decision-making.
Looking at talents, Brightwing picked up Arcane Barrage, so no vision provided to the team, but they're not the ones who are up against Zeratul, so that will help her be able to throw out some damage safely. Maybe even here at the top lane for the fort, but they have to be careful because there is again Kerrigan going after a Brightwing kill. Yeah,
the combo's not going to end up landing, actually, not even throwing out the W. Don't know if that was a mistake or intentional. Either way, though, they're going to be able to walk away here. Giants pressuring for both teams on the lower half of the map. Clear and rotation should go in favor of Murloc Geniuses. I would have liked to see them actually take their Knights and then rotate down to the bottom. Whenever you have a double global, I think it's actually in your best interest to just concentrate on the lower half rather than the upper half in a lot of these situations, especially without the Zeratul. And you have such a good skirmishing composition with Kerrigan, Li Ning that I really like when you take Knights early, take Giants, and just start pressuring. Because the defensive tools on the side of Denial aren't necessarily dominant in that area, and you can just take out the front wall, get those shots for free on the back half when these second Shrine phase will spawn.
The top fort went down. Finally, Glaurung was able to pick that up for his team. Murloc Geniuses sent Falstad down very fast too, knowing that Sylvanas was starting to throw some damage along with the Giants, and you want to respond to that very quickly because it can get out of control. Now, the next temple phase is starting. Denial did not pick up their bruisers, so this will be a free push of the Murloc Geniuses bruisers, and Brightwing will have to maybe deal with that before she can phase shift in. Maybe Murlocs can make something happen before that.
And Denial, by sending the Brightwing up there, already have shown they 100% want this on the bottom half of the map. They could have sent Sylvanas as a rare decision, but you can actually go with Sylv and then threaten the keep front wall in the upper half when that fort goes down. So they have really committed to this on the lower half. We have to keep our eyes onto Cattle if he's going to be able to get a combo on somebody that is very vulnerable, whether it be the Sylv. Zeratul is shown in the mid lane for now, but it looks like they're just dancing and kind of giving up the shots as Zeratul gets a free wave on mid.
Brightwing still clearing out the top lane, and shots halfway done with Fury hanging out. I was going to say that Murlocs need to be careful about how they're positioned because Portal changes things for the way Denial can engage. And in fact, here comes the Portal. Glaurung's going to jump in. Fury's starting to take some damage, going to walk off maybe. Getting hit by a Stormbolt. There comes a cleanse too. They want to get Fury out of here. Glaurung jumps in, not quite securing the kill though.
Yeah, really good dodge though onto the orb. He gets the Force of Will and ends up getting the blink out. Health bars for both the teams sitting at the halfway mark except for APM and K1 Pro. We do see Kato is going to be able to heal himself up as well. Shots were completed here. Majority going over to Murloc Geniuses. I'm pretty sure they checked that off as a win in their book. Considering the situation and how Denial went to go approach that fight, Murloc Geniuses, again, have done a very good job of just kind of playing out the mid-game and always going even with their opponents.
Yep, they took down the bottom fort, which evens up structures. Brightwing sat up for a lot of that and had experience gain for the team, but again, Murloc Geniuses are right there with Denial, and both are going to pick up their heroic abilities in short order.
In the past, when we see Glaurung on the Zeratul, he always seems to be most terrifying and influential when it comes to the early and mid part of the game. Like, usually you see him get 1 to 2 kills in the early game, and then he's going to get that wormhole, and something that becomes even more terrifying later on. But that is not the case here. He hasn't had too much influence yet, and it is debatably one of Zeratul's best maps. I'm not saying that it means that he can't have that kind of influence, but always in the past, when you think of like Glorung single-handedly winning the game, doing the things that he's known for on Zeratul. It almost always starts from beginning to end, and we don't have that yet 7 minutes into this game.
Denial are changing some things up just in general. They got Arcane Barrage, I think is the name of it. It is instead of getting the Master's Touch, which is the norm for Medivh, but forces you to have to stack and play cautiously. Instead of getting Arcane Explosion, which once Force of Will is done, then it will blow up and hit everybody around it. So if they're hoping that maybe the idea is as Murloc Geniuses jump in with Uther, ETC, Kerrigan, they've got a lot of people all clumped up, they can put Force of Will on that person and then do damage that way. We'll
see if that adjusts his approach to his level 16 as well. If maybe the Circle of Life is suddenly something they might want to move into. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but it is now, I feel like, a more appealing that we see some diversity coming out from his play style. But Shrine's now spawning, one in the upper half, one on the lower. And trading is pretty much even for both these teams as 11 has been secured. Everybody committed to the lower half for now because boss control is something we need to be worried about. Medivh getting the float up there, they know that they're going to be rotating, so it looks like Murloc and Denial are just saying, we're going to wait it out. Not anything to fear.
Once again, we see teams on Sky Temple trading out on Shrines, trading out on pushing.
When you trade on Shrines is far different than trading on pushing. Taking a fight on a Shrine is not always in your best interest, but taking one while they're trying to siege up on your fort is almost always advantageous to the defending team. But I mean, they're going to be moving in for the boss. I honestly feel like there's no way Denial does not know this. At this point in time, their positioning and rotations are so slow that maybe that is the case. That is insane.
Wow.
Silva has not been threatening the keep front wall at all. I figured that would be the out. I don't know if stealing when it's just left in front of you, but I
grabbed the boss for free.
I guess. But now shots were secure for both the teams. Went for the trade, and they're not going to be able to push with this, but they will be able to siege elsewhere, possibly the top half, which we do see Murloc's now already making that rotation here. They're going to have 3 forts going down for them in a matter of moments.
Well, siege happening in top for Murloc Geniuses too, not wanting to commit to go with the boss. It's pretty early on in the game. It's not going to do a lot of damage itself, and that Murder Bridge is a terrifying place to try to disengage from, especially with Void Prison as a potential and Emerald Wind for Brightwing too.
Poly, Wailing, anything AoE, just everything about that bridge is something you don't want to be a part of here. And other than that, Talonteers, we're going to see pretty much the same thing, different level, you know, for the most part here in these teams. As I say that, though, combo going out onto Glorung, he will be able to get the blink out of there. Stun going on to Cap. There's a large amount of people very grouped up. That's going to be a 3-man Wailing Arrow, as it looks like Denial wants to try and take this fight.
Murloc Geniuses are just waiting out that Wailing Arrow, and they hit a combo that forces out Cleanse from King Caffeine. They jump into the other side of the portal and jump back and forth. Portal action will only increase now that Quickening has been picked up by Medivh.
Yeah, and it's absolutely crucial that Solms sticks with the team. Not only Zeratul thrive in that kind of split and isolated situation, but just the whole comp with K1, who's going to be on the Medivh. But they do move in, are able to take this camp, and they're just going to play passive again. I honestly think these trades are going in favor of Murloc Geniuses just because Denial is so good at that panicked team fight that they're just not getting any of them, and that's really what Murloc kind of wants in the long run.
And structurally, it's also in favor of Murloc Geniuses because they got ahead earlier on, and Denial chose to trade out temples. And of course, Murloc Geniuses grabbed the boss. They are doing much better. They still have a fort left. It even took down the final fort of Denial in that counter siege up in the top lane. A lot of times in games of Heroes of the Storm, it doesn't matter necessarily if you get all of the forts down, but here where the temples are very important, taking that down means that now with this temple phase, if they can get this, they're threatening keeps.
Yeah, and finally you have the singular shrine, so the fight we've been looking for is going to happen. Both teams will have the Knights pressuring out for them, and it's all going to come down to control of vision, especially if Denial is able to pick that up with how confusing their composition can be. If they have that advantage when it comes to the Fog of War as well, they're going to be in a great spot here. But for now, Murlocs will be able to get the first couple of shots, Gilly.
Almost scaring me a little bit. Kaelin Pro can always drop down with a portal, and all of a sudden the rest of Denial's there. But Denial's slightly ahead in experience too. It's important to remember. Here comes the fight. They're looking for the confusion. Portals are out. Murloc Geniuses are pulling back. Force of Will used to keep Caffeine alive, and Caffeine doing his normal thing of hitting a lot of members, going 1 versus 2 this time. They've jumped back in on him. Remember, Mosh Pit might be a potential for Fury. He's in the back. He's watching out the portal. Void Prison hits. Caterpillar.
Oh, that Psalm combo, though, knowing that Glowing was going to go through that, but that's a four-wheeling arrow, and everybody on Murloc just seems to be going down here as June is trying to be able to get the heals. Psalm is just looking for a reset. If he can get a Glowing in that chokehold, he's not going to be able to confirm the kill yet. Doesn't get it. Wormhole outplays him, and that is going to be 4 for nothing. Chaos Comp comes out on top.
Denial Esports finally getting an advantageous team fight, and they want to use Sylvanas, keeping Right Wing on the tempo so she gets the shots that will finish off that bottom fort, but meanwhile getting the towers up here in the top. It's still quite a ways away until everyone from Murloc Geniuses is back, so they're going to get all the experience they can to widen their lead.
Yeah, that was such a good job from Denial Esports, really putting themselves far ahead in this game for the first time. 16 won't be achieved for some time. And I'm trying to figure out how that team fight even went that back. Glorong was legitimately one shot. Like, anybody could have auto-attacked him. A minion at that point could have, and he would have ended up going down. But getting the stealth there, and they were able to completely turn around that fight. The Void onto 3 targets, mixed with the follow-up Wailing Arrow. I don't know if Murloc Geniuses knows how to approach these fights to be effective.
Yeah, the Void made Maelstrom go way down. Cattle stayed outside of the Void too. So that was basically a waste where he couldn't jump in. He didn't have his whole team with him. So that was part of it. Murloc Geniuses themselves play Medivh, so they know how Medivh compositions work. But if something starts to get way away from you, Psalm way far up.
Yep, he's going to be going now. He lasted a couple of seconds there. Void is only going to hit onto the ETC. He has no power slide. He should be falling here. Not really too many tools. Emerald Wind as well. I mean, to be honest, a little more resources than they needed. Yeah, overkill is how I put it, but it's going to allow them to move in to the boss. So this is where Murloc Geniuses against Inventic had moments where they would take decisions that they don't necessarily need to, that could potentially risk the game. These are kind of one of them. They have 2 people down, getting a little bit too aggressive there, trying to take the Giants, and Denial is able to exactly do that, deny it from them. But I would like to see them just accept their losses a little bit easier, as they do end up pulling away here. And now Denial has full control.
They do. With a boss, with 2 Giants, with 2 temples activating behind them, Murloc Geniuses have to defend versus this, and Denial is going to cautiously watch and see if they can get a little tricksy with their portal play. Try to take some more people down for the next temple phase, but Murloc Geniuses need to be safe in how they take out this boss, but it's Sylvanas along with the boss too.
Right Wing has made the rotation to the upper half. She'll be confirming a lot of those shots. That will get they will get the keep as well. The fact she hasn't confirmed those shots right out the gates allows Murloc Geniuses now to be able to make a rotation to one of the 2, and it won't confirm the keep for 100%. APM here, I don't understand the decision-making. I may be afraid of the false head, maybe at best his flight. But other than that, it's really just giving a lot of shots. So afraid of the 20 here, even though they know everybody for Murloc Geniuses on the bottom half of the map. And now Murden has to walk up and make that rotation himself. And this will confirm a keep here if they confirm at least half of the shots, which it looks like it's going to be the case for Denial.
Murloc switched out who they had on the temple to Fall Stab, thinking maybe they could fly somebody up if the rest wanted to go in for a fight, but instead they know they won't make it up in time to save their keep. They're going to have to sack that. That'll be the first keep dropping by Denial, and Denial 3-level-ish, 2-ish level lead as they have their Storm Talents. And they're picking up, it's going to be continuous wins. So further being able to separate somebody away. Caterpillar, speaking of being separated from the team, but he has Divine Shield. He's starting to go in. Void Prison on the back line on 2 more members, following up with Emerald Wind, and Kerrigan is obliterated.
Yeah, I'm getting caught out there. Now Gus is going to be used. Fury is still in a rough spot. 20 advantage, keep in mind, for Denial. That is going to be him going down as well. Are they going to be able to confirm 1 to 2 more? That's all it's going to take. Minimum of the second keep here, if that's going to be the case. iDream maybe going too far. They're going for a trade, and that is going to mean Sylvanas is down, but the portal is confirming 1 more kill here as only Li Ming is left standing. But if Sylvanas was alive here, that's going to be a keep. That was a very, very risky choice on the side of iDream going for that, and now his team is going to be moving what looks like to be game here with the minions on the upper half of the map.
Still up Bruiser. Psalm is caught. He is not getting away from this. The double poly potential, and Denial Esports finally putting a mark on the board. getting one game away from Murloc Geniuses in the grand finals.
They are able to take it back, and again, sticking to that chaos that we saw from them yesterday. They did it with Leoric instead of instead of having the Murden on their team, but really well done coming out from Denial Esports. I don't think a lot of people thought that they were going to be able to pull it back, have the mental strength to be able to stand through what Murloc Geniuses did to them into the first 2 games. And they never got too clever with it with that Medivh. We saw in the last game they got a huge lead, legitimately risked it all with 1 decision on mid-court. Not the case here on the Sky Temple game.
Yeah, that's a really difficult thing to keep your mental stasis up despite being that far down. But let's head over to the panel to hear what they thought of that Sky Temple game.
So thank you very much, Gilly. Of course, being able to put a win on the board here is Denial Esports, and sticking with the Medivh and making it work, even with a little bit of a variation in the build as well. They're not going for Master Touch, guys.
You know, it was really interesting. I don't think they got as much value out of Medivh as they did maybe last game, but they put a lot of faith in Glaurung. He delivered this game.
He did deliver this game. The odds were not as stacked against him, I would say. And he's so much more comfortable on that Zeratul, it seems, than the Tracer. I feel like he played Zeratul cool, calm, and collected, which we weren't sure he would because they were down 2 games. Going into that game, I expected him to be under too much pressure to be able to perform with that Zeratul. But instead...
Yeah, we can take a look at some of the highlights here from this game, of course, as 15 against 15 going into this fight. How?
Yeah, the portals are there, but I think what everybody kind of highlighted on his Cap being there at the bottom left, just being an absolute terror. I mean, he made a name and a living for himself playing Murden, and it doesn't seem like a whole lot has changed. They collapse on him so hard, and somehow he doesn't go down.
That was the Void Prison they were waiting for the whole game also. I mean, that Void Prison followed up by the amazing Wailing Arrow. This is the moment they actually looked good. This game, they were behind the whole game until that specific moment, and then suddenly the game gets exploded wide open, and Denial just crushes it from here. They don't have to do anything risky. They just play safe, and every fight for the rest of the game is clean, calm, collected by them. And it looks kind of like Murloc's is floundering a bit at this point in the game.
I'm glad we got to watch that Sam blow up on that Li Ming over there, which literally was like a 1-second clip because he went down that fast. So
it was interesting. The positioning was interesting there. The positioning at the end of the game was a little bit I mean, it was almost kind of over. But when you're Li Ming, there's always the risk of resets.
Yes.
The positioning over there, as opposed to the safe side of the minions, was a little bit questionable. I'm not saying that's what would have won or lost them the game, but it's small errors like that you can't have when you're in the finals in the deciding game for you, but now you're going into game number 4.
And, first Garden of Terror map.
Calaris' favorite map, just for the record.
My favorite map. I love it. So, we're going to get Garden of Terror. Murloc Genius's choice, actually, here. So, what makes you... What kind of comes to mind when you think that why they may have picked this map?
I can't think of any heroes in North America that would possibly give you any incentive to play on this map of any other.
I agree. J-How?
Well, we definitely know that we're not referencing EU and thinking Zul in this one.
No.
It's backwards, right? So you guys can play Vikings, we'll play Zul. I think the roles might be changing a little bit. I'm curious. And I wonder if it might actually deserve an early ban and maybe let Zagara through. I mean, we have not been able to say much about Zagara at all just because of, one, she's that good. It's interesting because you get so much value out of that Zagara ban. It's twofold. It's a really good hero, and Cawthon Luck is really good on it. So the value of that ban alone is tremendous, I think, on the side of Denial.
I wonder if Dream has been playing Vikings at all in the past month since he's been back. Because I have no idea, but he used to play Vikings for us way back in the day. So I wonder if that's something Murloc Geniuses forgot about or thinks he's just hasn't practiced on it.
All right, we're in. It's going to be the Zagara ban and Grey Mane ban once again, kind of continuing that trend. Those have been the first 2 bans in this series throughout. So, there you go.
Well, Li Ming already picked up, and, you know, this is a much different approach. I'm curious what their next 2 picks are going to be. It almost seemed like Denial was kind of showing their hand, showing their strategy for the first 3 games. A Li Ming pickup is a much more safe pickup, and I wonder if Murloc Geniuses, we might be seeing something like a Lunara come out to try and contend with a lot of the objective, but here we go again with the Brightwing coming in as that during the second rotation.
Denial has put so much emphasis on this Brightwing. It's been in almost every single one of their games, and I just wonder is that a problem with their support pool? Is that just a facet of their drafting? Do they legitimately think that is such a powerful hero it needs to be rotated this early every time? I mean, Ariel is up. We've seen that hero be amazing. Muradin is up. Muradin wasn't up, sorry, but it just feels like the Brightwing so early is like awkward. I feel like they're trying to threaten the Zeratul or something, but too much of the same thing.
Well, we have a King Caffeine special once again in the form of Leoric, and you know it's something that we've seen from them. I would be willing to bet one of those last two picks will likely be Medivh again. It's not going to be Zeratul this time around. The threat of that is too real for Murloc. They just want to try and keep things a little bit different, keep it a little bit on a more even keel.
Is this a map where we could see a hammer in the final?
Now that you mention it, that actually could be a reasonable pick. If you're Murloc Geniuses, you can definitely set up your draft in such a manner that you can last pick Hammer if it looks good. If the enemy team doesn't have the ways to control the game that actually punish Hammer, you definitely can, because the Falstad, Dread talks about this a lot, but the fail-safe of having the Falstad Gust to protect a vulnerable hero like Hammer or like Medic, for example, can allow you to negate those weaknesses, but they are not remotely interested in that.
No.
Illidan Tassadar.
I think they just wanted to choke out Glaurung, right? I mean, the Great Main ban all series long has been aimed at the fact that he looked great on it in the past couple of series during the tournament. Then you get rid of Zeratul, then you take Illidan.
Kerrigan Uther was something that they had no problem going with before, with Brightwing already there. I feel like Kerrigan might still be on the board. I don't think it's as much of a threat here with Illidan on the other side. But we do have to satisfy Glaurung's thirst to attack. And something's got to be. And one of those heroes that actually does that is Tracer. Illidan cannot stay on Tracer. It's almost impossible. If Tracer plays correctly, Illidan is chasing a ghost, essentially.
We've also seen Tracers absolutely destroy Illidans, because when he goes for that meta, you can drop the Pulse Bomb on the ground, and then as soon as he comes out of meta, he just explodes almost instantly. We have seen that interaction multiple times between Tracers and Illidan, so it could be really powerful. On the other hand, I wouldn't be terribly surprised to see Denial go like second healer Ariel and then Sonya, and just have a really strong mid to late game teamfight composition, because this is a map that has a tendency for both teams to get to the late game and those high level heroes.
Well, there's the Oriole. Now we're going to see what's going to be the last part of this equation for Denial. You know, I got to go back to some of the notes that I have on Glaurung, and his Sonya play is not necessarily that spectacular. I mean, he's a very aggressive player, and he plays very aggressive heroes. Sonya fits into that, but I'm not sure if it's a hero that he is as reliable on compared to some of the heroes in the rest of his pool. There's the Tracer.
Did opt for the Tracer, all in on getting that backline kill now. The Leeming Tracer, though, that is a lot of kill pressure. If Leeming finds a flank, so you can get that orb over a wall, through the Fog of War, something like that, onto a squishy target like Falstad or Tassadar, Tracer can easily clean them up.
Is there anything other than the previous trifecta of Illidan with Rehgar potentially coming in? Oh, what do you think?
The fact that they're holding it this long... Like, you would assume almost an instant lock on Rehgar. Maybe Uther if you really are worried. I mean, think about this. Think about Illidan going in on the back line. He's got Brightwing and he's got Leeming. He could maybe punish the front line of Leoric, but not really. And then you've got Oriole on the back side. You get a polymorph from Brightwing. Tracer does not have to dive. And then everybody is collapsing on that hero. A detainment strike after the polymorph. There's a lot of isolation potential. Think about the amount of terrain on this map to be able to hit that detainment strike and to be able to get those stuns. I mean, I feel that with that Illidan pickup, there's a lot of concern for me when I see this composition and the fact that they're waiting this long. I feel like this almost has to be a debate on Uther, because if he gets punished, that Ancestral might not be quick enough.
Especially if we see that Emerald Wind again, to split out the Rehgar from his Illidan. That's a strategy that we used to use a lot in the old days of heroes when Illidan was very common. Brightwing can actually split the support from the Illidan, but the Monk, that's a very heavy dive comp from Murloc Geniuses.
Yeah, that being able to try and help out Illidan here. Technically, there is a little bit of melee in there, so he'll get some value out of his heals. But overall, not the exact choice we were suspecting here, Jayhao.
It's almost like they're trying, again, Denial has put the fear into the teams that they're playing against. Murloc played really well, but I don't want to say they got lucky the first 2 games because they played well enough to win them, but they're forcing Murloc geniuses into drafts that we don't really see them on normally. It's heroes that they play, but it's not the same type of play style that you could say, hey, well, how does Murloc geniuses play? What do their drafts look like? It doesn't traditionally look like this.
I'm gonna have to be careful here. Of course, for Denial Esports, it's 1 game away from being utterly defeated in this grand final at least, but not necessarily defeated on that road to BlizzCon. If they are to lose here, then they would indeed going up against that tiebreaker against GFE, which would be a best of 3 right after this. So looking at these comps, looking at the lineups, what are we thinking here, boys?
I'm worried for Illidan. I am worried for any type of Illidan pressure you're going to get. Now, this is a map that you can play the objective on. It's split between the top and the bottom. You can try to play on those terrors and get that and do some, try and get some pressure out of that. So that does work to your advantage because Illidan does so well there. But when it comes to team fights, when it comes to rotation, we've already seen that when Glaurung is on Tracer, he's putting the pressure on you. You're not going to be able to avoid it. You're not going to be able to play the objective only on this map against Denial. It's just not going to happen.
You're right. I feel like with the Illidan composition, they've changed their style a lot. They are known for playing a lot of rotation-based, map control-based styles, and this Illidan is all about the team fight. It's all about the 5v5, all about the dive. We haven't seen evidence that this is something they're strong at yet.
All right, we're getting into it. Game number 4 here on Garden of Terror. The first time we've seen it in the entire tournament. Denial Esports is going up against Murloc Geniuses. Who are you guys looking out for?
You guys know who I'm looking for on Denial, but this time it's going to be about Caterpillar and Illidan, his ability to stay alive, to be aggressive when he needs to be, and to hold restraint the rest of the time.
I really want to look at June on Karazim. We have not seen him play that hero before. I want to know why he decided to pick that, seeing in his play.
All right, we're getting into it. Going to the Xfinity Caster's desk once again with Dread and Gilly for game number 4.
Thank you, Calaris. And here we go into game number 4 on Garden of Terror. Still match point for Murloc Geniuses, but Denial, they're clawing their way back into this series. They won the last game. They've got the momentum. Let's see if they can take it to the final game.
Yeah, the momentum is something that they're really going to have to carry. And the analysis desk brought it up perfectly. A lot of the points that comes to the draft and the playstyle of these teams, they're very different than what we've seen for some time. We have to keep in mind, though, the only game we've seen Denial be able to take off Murloc so far is, without a doubt, probably they're going to be their strongest map here. And this is Murloc Genius's map choice. Garden of Terror, not one we see very frequently in competitive heroes.
Well, they are maybe getting into a big fight as the orb connects on Psalm. But Murloc Geniuses gets back after throwing some damage onto a tower. Thought maybe they would lose some people there, but everyone getting out unscathed, or mostly unscathed, and they'll start to rotate out into their respective lanes.
Yes, they will, making the rotations here. Illidan's going to be the solo lane. He does pretty well for the most part whenever he's going to be off on his own, unless there's an insane laner. But sadly, that is not going to be the Brightwing, so really good job there. And abusing that solo lane is something we've seen teams like Gale Force Esports do very well in the past, and I'd like to see if Murloc is going to be able to do the same here as they're rotating around with this 3-man, and Taz going to be able to get the clear on mid.
You know, Dread, I have to wonder, mentality-wise, for Denial, how, hi Dream, saying, I see you, I know you're there, but a lot of people, maybe everybody, I don't know, thought that it'd be Navintic getting out of the semifinal between them and Murloc Geniuses. How do you think that affects Denial going in, especially if they spent more time preparing to face Navintic in the grand finals, maybe?
I mean, I think it could hurt them a bit. To be honest, I don't feel like Denial is much of a team that's willing to fear other people's playstyles. They very much stick to their own almost no matter what at this point. It does feel like they're rather stubborn with the consistency of, I mean, APM's Brightwing, and then we have Glaurung with the heroes that he's known to be able to play, and K1 Pro is consistently on just a pseudo support. So I don't know, even when they're on the back foot, right? Like, we've seen them with the last possible maybe tournament-like game, and they just don't really care. So I don't know if they would be the ones who adjust according to the research here, as Cap will be going down here for first blood of this of the game number 4 here on Garden of Terror.
Now Geniuses pick up first blood, and they're all hanging out in the mid, throwing some damage on towers, but also getting aggressive to the seed camps, pushing Glaurung away. See some damage coming in from Leeming too, and they want to maybe look for some kills. iDream starting to get under pressure, but it was a detainment strike to throw away and get a stun. And King Caffeine has come back up. This is the thing about Leoric. He comes right back to where he was, and Glaurung will win the 1v1 versus Taz.
Yeah, and getting that pick off there is huge. You saw them instantly rotate to worry about the seeds, got a little bit distracted there by one person, and they were able to turn around, get the kill, and now Denial has the upper hand when it comes to the seeds here. 30-35 so far as they do start the bottom. Shambler teams dancing around. Tacit are just now spawning, but he seems to be making the rotation down as well, and now it seems like Murloc Geniuses finally accept their fate and might be concentrating on the upper half of the map.
Because King Caffeine is on Leoric, and because he is a very capable Leoric, it seems like Murloc Geniuses, if they are going to have this focus to Leoric and get a kill there, they can't be distracted like that. They need to be decisively doing whatever they need to do during that time, because Leoric coming back to exactly where he is a short amount of time to get ahead in seeds, for example.
Yeah, I think a really good way to kind of approach Leoric in a lot of the times that we've seen him is just he's a very reasonably easy kill target to be able to concentrate in the earlier games. And then rather than viewing as like, all right, we've got a man down, let's be able to go and do this and everything, it's just be like, all right, we got a little bit of XP. But always viewed as a 5 vs 5 until his death timers get so far that then you can start abusing the fact that Leoric is going to be off the table for some period of time. Because what a lot of people may not consider when it comes to Leoric is it is not always his ability to spawn that gains him the upper hand, right? Like, it's the fact that he spawns where he wants.
Exactly.
And that time in the early game is almost always worth more than the death timer itself. That is the upper hand that he provides. So what was an 8-second, oh, he's going to be back in 8 seconds, it is now what a normal person would be with 20 to 25 seconds, just because that distance to travel when you spawn at your hall.
Well, guys, we are making sure the players are ready to go for this game number 4. Let's talk builds for a second, as I see a build that we haven't seen since day number 1 for Oriole. More focused on being able to do damage. Searing Light at level 1 means Ray of Heaven will do damage equal to 30% of energy spent. And the last time we saw that, it was Psalm playing Oriole along with Cho'Gall, but since then it's been way more focused on Sacred Sweep, having that area of effect damage, having it up more often, and maybe even being able to clear waves better with it. But with this, makes me think they really want to focus on bursting somebody down.
Yeah, just getting that raw amount of damage output into their opponents and making Illidan be under a lot of pressure is going to be the focus of their composition. And I agree with what Dunk had to bring up on the analysis desk. We don't see June typically on the Karzim. It's not that we have never seen him be able to play the hero. It's more just that it doesn't necessarily synergize too much with the Illidan, and it's also not one that we know him to be a comfort, if you will. So I want to make sure that he's going to be able to justify that, especially into the aggressive comp that exists in the hands of Denial right now, as that dash there going onto the Shambler leads to a stun. Polymorph as the response, and Glaurung is getting free harass onto the back line.
Kettlestorm staying pretty healthy until a bunch of damage from Li Ming came out, but Leoric again will be the first to drop from Murloc Geniuses, and just in time as the Shambler starts to fall and turn into seeds. So they'll pick up all of those seeds. Still, Denial were able to get a Garden Tear off of the first seed phase.
Yeah, and look at this. Caps are just about to come up. Bomb going on to Kato. He's going to be already removed here. So now it is a 5 vs 4. Fury went in to try and help him, but it's not going to matter as well. He ends up going down, and I mean, we saw it already. It's all about the Leoric, right? Yes, you get the Leoric, and then suddenly they're like, all right, we can do more. And then they were like, oh, wait a minute, this is looking pretty ugly. Leoric comes back, gets the slow there from his big ol' swing while he's going to be in his undead mode, if you will. And then suddenly it was like, he's going to come back to life, and they can't be able to get the retreat there. So again, small victories is what Murloc Geniuses needs to do, because Calf has been always known to play a phenomenal Leoric.
He has. I remember, I think at Vegas, when he had that amazing entomb that Butcher ran in, and he just like, boom, hit the
Trust me, I remember it very clearly. It was, my heart just sunk at that moment. I was like, feels bad. That is not going to be a good fight.
I didn't mean to bring up a sore point, buddy. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, here's Glaurung in the Garden Tear. Normally when you have a tear off of the very first night phase, you're not looking to be able to get a ton done with it, obviously as much as you can, and the siege is really good that they've been able to get 2 towers so fast. But as long as you're getting a pretty good experience advantage, especially knowing that in the next seed phase you're going to be down quite a bit in the seeds. As you look at it, it'll be 80 Murloc Geniuses going in, and it'll be very hard for Denial to deny Murlocs from getting a Terror of their own.
Yeah, and early Terrors are really usually not too effective ever since we've seen, I want to say a recent change, but it's definitely not. But the lack of damage that the pot now does there for Glorong in that Terror has made it to where they don't do too much unless you commit a large amount of resources to be able to siege up with it. So he's only going to manage to get a front wall on the bottom half and looking towards the 8 on mid. But the more important thing here is the experience advantage that we see now for Denali Esports. They've been able to secure a level lead. 3-10, that is a very big deal here, especially when you're looking at Illidan-style compositions.
In the entire time of the siege, Brightwing was in the top lane, soaking up the wave.
Drop my cough button. Feels good.
And then they have the two globals against each other with Psalm staying up at the top as well. Talent choice at level 7 for Illidan, Hunter's Onslaught. Or no, that is the Thirsting Blade talent. That's giving you more healing off of your Sweeping Strike.
Your basic attacks are going to increase the amount of healing that he's going to be able to produce here from 30 to 50. So auto attacks are very heavy focus for him. As we say that, though, Glorong ends up getting a large amount of damage on the Caterpillar and bowling them off with the 10 advantage.
I would say that normally you would see Reflexive Block at level 7 for Illidan because they're up against Tracer, though. That's not super effective, but I've seen Cattle take this talent a lot. So it's also just a stylistic preference.
Yeah, he's going to have to get a lot of effectiveness out of those auto attacks, and it will help on those long fights. But he's got to make sure that his team is going to be effective and safe without him in a lot of these situations, because Denial has such a pretty composition to be able to deal with him. Caterpillar right now really needs to show that this pick was worth it, along with June there on the Karazim, as they're going to be getting level 10 here pretty quickly. Psalm is going into a rough spot, though, as he does move in. That's going to be a stun against the wall. A lot of damage there from Psalm. Glorong getting the flank. Gust coming out. Recall. Glorong is going to be right back, and that is a huge cooldown going to be burned.
I was wondering what Karazim was picking up for heroic abilities, as Crystal Aegis can pretty quickly put a stop to a 7-sided strike, but that's still the choice, and everything standard across the board for both of the teams. Emerald Wind, again, the choice for Brightwing.
I like the 7-sided, honestly. It might stop Aegis, but you can put it in a position where you just hit 2 targets, much like you can with like Divine Shield also stops it, but it only makes it to where it concentrates one other person. But as I say that, the slam barely not going to hit anybody here. Fury falling very, very low. Bomb onto Cattle. Emerald Wind will get the split, but Metamorphosis is going to dodge it as he is dancing all over Denial right now. Glorong goes in, almost kills Psalm, confirms it with that dash force wall, splitting the team. But right now, the huge entomb there from Cap, and they're just wailing on the Murloc geniuses.
Karazim is gone. Cattle very close to follow. Tassadar dead, and a 4-for-0 for Denial as they get way far ahead of Murloc geniuses now with that. It's a seed phase. There is a Garden Terror available for Murloc geniuses. They got enough seeds for that, but the rest of these, you can see Leoric moving up. They've already started that Shambler too, so the seed phase dominated by Denial.
Yeah, they've done so well in the early half of this. And now they're going to be picking up on the 13 pretty quickly, and no Terror will be available for Murlocs after this, and we do see that the Terror is going to be spawning forward to now Esports. So it is just an absolute controlled spot for now Esports. At best, you want to see Murloc Geniuses try and open up the map whenever possible. Also, they need to start focusing on fights less around that area with the seeds going to be spawning in that area. They want the lanes, right? Those long, chasey style fights, because Denial's composition loves that tight chokehold that they seem to be taking that fight with the Emerald Wind, with the Entomb. Glorong doesn't struggle there either. Li Ming loves that situation. Meanwhile, Illidan does well in this type of fight. So we can see Murloc shift the battle a little bit. They're going to be in a far better spot as the game goes on. Good polymorph, 7-sided. Leo's going down. Leo
is gone, and as you mentioned, those tight choke spots are perfect for Denial, and add Oriole to that, and the fact that you can get a way easier detainment strike. Plus, if everyone is grouped up and you drop a great Aegis that obliterates Murlocs, we've seen how much that can do on that one boss fight.
Yeah, it gains you a lot of value here, but now Psalm getting pretty weak. 13 tier should be picked up for Murloc Geniuses. That pick onto Leoric has really helped them be able to catch up into this game. Glorong's just looking to try and get value here, but he is falling down slowly but surely. It's Tracer in there, so he's not going to have to worry about dying. Pressure on the bottom half of the map, though, has been pretty successful here for Fury. Being able to confirm a fort for his team is not only going to help with experience, but again, opening the map for Illidan to thrive. But he is going to be under chase.
He is under chase. Entomb is here, and he gets
That's
polymorphed, stunned in. Entomb to follow, gets
Dwarf Toss
hit
is up
down.
very soon, though. Yeah, they should have opened with the Entomb, I think, a little bit earlier there because you can't dodge the stun. You can dodge the Entomb with the leap, but either way, a little bit of a misplay. But I don't even know if it would have gotten the kill either way. But now Denial has pressure on the bottom half, and there are 2 people up for Murloc Geniuses, so it's going to be only a 3 versus 3 for a short time. But Murloc's finally kind of got some ground in what I thought was going to be a pretty snowball game here for Denial. They kind of caught up a little bit. I mean, imagine that. Pretty much what they're known to do. Yep.
Oriole has a very great talent at 13, though, with Blinding Flash. She now can blind Illidan. So if they're able to set it up so he can't get that increased healing that we talked about earlier from his basic attacks, burn him down, maybe force out Metamorphosis, maybe take him out if you can get a good stun from Oriole or someone else before you do that, the Polymorph. It's all about the Illidan, and as the panel mentioned, it's going to come down to whether or not Cattle can stay through that fight and start to do the damage.
Yeah, he's going to have to really kind of focus down the Li Ming, but if she stays with her team, it's going to be a good spot. Denial there, man. I Dream getting a lot of value there with the spells over the wall as they're getting the Knight's Falstad and the Brightwing with the globals on the bottom half, just kind of getting that dance and poke, getting in the clear as best they can, and it's just kind of a stalemate for a short period of time here as they're going to be posturing around. The only advantage we do see is the Denial Esports has the opportunity to have the 20 to 30 advantage when it comes to the seeds. That might give them a small lead, but it really just kind of depends on who gets the rotation first.
But you know what I can't help but see? Denial has had 2 terrors to the 1 of Murloc's.
Yes.
And structurally, Murloc's haven't lost a 4.
Yes, that is true. The only difference from this to like Crystalla, for instance, in the first game, is that Murloc is behind in the experience. That level lead does matter. But I agree, it shows how weak Denial seems to feel when it comes to understanding the structure game and comparative to Murloc Geniuses. They've done a very good job, and more so for the Illidan. The fact that 3 forts are down is a huge win there for Murloc Geniuses. It allows them to just get so much more value, and now we do see the night phase spawning for these teams, everybody racing to the seeds, and again, we know Murlocs, not only are they not 16, but they want to fight in open areas, not these chokeholds, because it hasn't looked good for them.
Often they'll start to get hit. They have Detainment Strike, but he has level 13's Oppression, double dimensional shift if he needs it to get away, and Fury is right there with him, slowing down King Caffeine, who's just going to Wraith walk away. He's delaying some time for his team to pick up more seeds as they've started to work on that bottom Shambler. But Murlocs aren't 16 yet, so they can't go in for a big team fight as they would maybe like. They're moving to top instead, knowing that it's right on the horizon for them. They've got Falstad to soak up a wave, so they can pick these up and try to get their own terror.
And trading the seeds there with 16 advantage is not in the best interest of Denial Esports. You always want to try and deny as much as you can from your opponents whenever you have that lead there. And they have a great skirmishing opposition in an area that their composition thrives in. Now, Glaurung is picking up the terror. They know that. They're out of position. They're going to instantly engage, knowing that Glaurung's back at the base there. Leoric under so much pressure, but will he be able to survive? Caffeine goes down. Keep in mind, though, only a Leoric, though. Small victories are in the hands of Murlocs.
So in other words, remember that he will be right back in action, maybe next to you.
You just go, thanks for the free XP, and you wait till those death timers get like 40 to 50 seconds, and then you go, all right, what do we normally get here? Minus it, put it in about half, and that's what we can get away with.
Murloc Geniuses are all responding in mid lane to Glaurung being on this Garden Terror, and haven't started to pick up their own yet. 35 seconds left until someone can do that.
That's actually a really smart play on their half. Having the time advantage in your favor when it comes to these mid-game terrors is huge. They've become reasonable skirmishing tools, better more so on the sieging. The next phase is when the terrors suddenly become better than a hero, really. So much damage there going down with the 7-sided strike. But if you have the time advantage, it puts you in a position to where now you have a 45 seconds where you can really dictate the pace of this game for Murloc Geniuses here. They are 3/4 of level down, but the fight has been raging on here in the mid lane.
That's Aegis being used very early on, as has Entomb just on Cothenlock, and King Caffeine's gotta get out of here if he can. Idrian even jumps in too, but Caterpillar, he came in and Glaurung was half health on that terror, and look at him.
That's all about Cap right there. He's put so much damage there with his drain onto the map objective there, Cattle into the terror, that he's really turned around, and Glaurung ends up staying alive longer. So a wasted terror there for Murloc Geniuses because of their attempt to get the pursuit on the caffeine. Really good job, Denial Esports, maintaining the lead here, half a level in experience, and now backing out to paint the map red. Maybe open up with a couple of structures, because keep in mind, they've only gotten 1-4.
Welcome to Garden Terror. We've gone through 3 objective phases, and forts are still up for Murloc Geniuses. But full level lead, consistently for Denial Esports. They did not take anybody down. They did not get more than a fort, even though there were some good minion pushes on both top and bottom. That'll help Murloc catch up in experience in quick fashion.
Yeah, it's going to really help. That wave up top is huge, so June's going to help keep his team up when it comes to experience here. It's just such a crazy position, and with how little has seemed to really happen, the skirmishing seems to be going over to Denial Esports. I can tell you the next Terror phase, Murloc Geniuses absolutely needs to make sure that Leoric does not gain as much value as he did during that last fight, almost single-handedly doing 50% of the max health there. But really, they're just going to be backing out, worrying about the structures. Nobody's worried about timing with the Knight in any way, shape, or form. Something I'd like to see a bit more out of them. Keep in mind, with double global, it's usually not something you can depend on too much, because they're going to just stay up there and get the clear. And then Denial looks to get the giant pressure on the bottom.
Looking at Oriole build, while we have some time for the next Knight phase starts, it's not going to be the Reservoir of Hope for the giant amounts of damage potential that you pair up with Searing Light. Instead, getting Wrath of Heaven, which I think is the first time we've seen that this tournament. Sometimes with Will, a couple of teams took that to give attack speed, but now you're getting 10% ability power, giving that most likely to Li Ming so that she can pack a little more punch with her spells.
So we knew on the side of Denial that they were going to respond to the double camp in the upper right-hand side of the map. I would have loved to see Murloc secure both the small camp in the upper left that we see Cath at right now for free. It's the small camps in this map that really end up winning it. Everybody's like, well, look at the big one. It gives so much, but it takes so long. The small victories over small camps are really what sets good from great teams apart here on Garden of Terror, and the team's now just closing it out, trading when it comes to the map objective. Half a level experience advantage still in the hands of Denial, as both teams will be confirming not a Terror actually here for Murloc Geniuses. They realize they're going to steal. Only 5 is needed. Expect they got it.
All right, so there they go. One for one. Yes, exactly, because Clinton's already been used there. The 7-sided strike only hits Glowering a couple of times. Tracer's not the ideal target for that, and Alsam will drop. And more kills maybe to come. And Tomb hits Caterpillar and caught the dimensional shift, saves the life of Caught for now, but Cattle is out. Tassadar drops too.
All right, so now we're going to see that it looks like Brightwing is going to be one backing. They already know they have so much going for them. 45 seconds dead. A Terror pushing in 20 advantage. Terror is available for Murloc Geniuses as well. It's a pretty solid defensive tool. Honestly, I'm surprised they haven't gotten into it quite yet. They're going to wait it out until the Terror moves up and to them. I expect Larung to try and get some harass. Really good job picking that up to try and stop them from getting onto it. Polymorph in the corner. That might cost him his life here. 7-sided not up for 7 seconds yet. And we have 30 before Murloc Geniuses teammates end up joining. And this is probably going to be a keep here with 20 advantage.
Yeah, most likely is. Depends how much they can take down with that potted plant once they use it. Polymorph hitting again, and Fury doing what he can to stave off the pressure, but not enough at all. Denial take the first keep of the game and move on to the core.
There he goes. He ends up dropping it. The core is disabled completely. Nobody's able to remove it. It is just getting chunked here. 90% left on the core. Gus coming into play. I don't think it's going to matter, as APM is completely full health, and that is it. Denial Esports is going to be able to turn the series around 2-2 on Garden of Terror.
Denial have to be feeling so fantastic. They were down 0-2 and maintained the momentum and mental state they needed to get to this point. One game away from potentially reverse sweeping to take the grand finals.
Galeforce Esports right now has to be almost more terrifying than Murloc Geniuses at this point. But it was just such a slow and
methodical.
I don't know if that's a word I would apply to it. It just seems so weird, that entire matchup. Very few fights chosen from Murloc Geniuses.
Now we're going to head to a break. When we return, the final game of the grand finals.
Overwatch. Soldiers, scientists, adventurers, oddities.
Playtime's over.
Overwatch. Play it now on PC and console. Rated T for teen.
Your host, the great Magus Medivh, invites you back to party down with me.
Come inside, meet your friends at the door. We've got a feast like you've never seen before. Shake your stuff to our musical beat. Play life-size chess, but don't you dare cheat. Most of all, throw your worries away. Dive right in, you'll never be the same. This is a place of funky, magical phenomena. Anything goes for one night in Kansas.
It all comes down to this, map 5 here in the grand final between Denial Esports, of course, and Murloc Geniuses to determine who will be the champion here of North America, live from PAX West here in Seattle, Washington. As of course now Denial stands on the very cusp of knocking Murloc Geniuses off of their pedestal. Let's take a look at some of the highlights here from game number 4, Garden of Terror. Plenty of highlights because it was a long game.
There's plenty of highlights because Glaurung made a lot of them. I mean, Tracer was basically unscathed in a lot of these fights. Cattle goes in, and look at the punishment. He's in there, and he's able to do nothing. Glaurung forces his way to the back of the other team and does a lot of damage and gets some kills.
It felt like a lot of these team fights started off in Murloc's favor, but they spent so many cooldowns killing Leoric over and over and over. They used 7-sided strikes, they used all their CC, they used their damage, and then Glaurung's like, oh hey, I'm getting to do whatever I want to all of your squishies. He pretty much solo kills Falstad in this fight. That's how much free room he's having to maneuver.
The plays that they made, I mean, Caffeine, again, we talked about Caffeine special of Leoric. His tombs landed. We saw a couple of really nice ones. There was one that was a little bit questionable on a Muradin.
On a Muradin, yeah.
But mostly overall, we saw a lot of good execution. It seems like when we saw the player graphics there, the player cams, that's a tale of two very different teams right now.
Yes.
Murloc's looks a little bit worn down. Denial's like, man, we're feeling pretty good. We're playing really well, and we've won 2 games in a row.
Still some smiles. Still some happiness there. Black Hearts Bay is our final map. We're not going to do it, Jay. How?
Let's just not talk about it.
No. Let's not talk about it. It came down to the same position in Europe, of course. I said let's not talk about it. I'm not going to talk about it.
But I think we have to talk about it because we said we didn't talk about it. For context, at the last regional in Europe, Black Hearts Bay was the final map, and there was a butcher pick that didn't look so great. But let's get to the topic at hand. So now we got that out of the way.
Indeed. Let's talk about Black Hearts Bay. Let's talk about what we think and how these guys could potentially approach it, because it is basically unlike any other map, really, in the map pool.
This map gets a lot of flack from the pro players. It just plays so differently from all the other maps in the game. The fact that The map mechanic is so PvE oriented, but at the same time, you can kind of dodge your opponents. It's a big map. There are so many niche strategies that only work here, like the Azmodan we've seen before. Abathur is always great here. It's just a wild map where it feels like anything goes.
I mean, the thing that we saw last game is that Murloc picked an Illidan into a Brightwing composition. This is a map that seems to be one of Illidan's better maps because of the PvE aspect and the amount of camps that we have there. At the same time, on the other side, Glaurung's there. He's known to play Illidan as well. I feel like Illidan might have to either be banned out or let through by Murloc, and that might be a problem for them to deal with Glaurung on that hero.
That's right. You can go Illidan, the Demon Hunter, on this PvE-based map, and you can also do that on World of Warcraft Legion. We're available at all good retailers now, which is potentially something that you... What? Anyway. Are you okay there, J-How?
Sell out? But seriously, it's so much fun. Okay, back
Demon
to
Hunter?
Heroes. Oh,
It's
yeah.
good. It's really
yeah.
good. It's really good flying about.
Uh-huh. You actually play just like Illidan in-game. Tons of mobility.
Exactly.
Just kill stuff super fast.
Yeah, metamorphosis.
Oh, yeah.
J-How, what's wrong?
You have this grin on your face. We're in the deciding game. I want...
All right, okay, back on topic, of course, here. It is 2-2 here. It is serious time because Denial Esports and Murloc Geniuses, of course, Murloc Geniuses, they don't, well, I was about to say they don't feel as much pressure, but as you said, when you saw them on camera, it looked like there was a little bit of tilt.
A little bit is almost an understatement. When we went to that quick pause, there was a certain, they showed Caterpillar on one side, and they showed Glaurung on one. Glaurung looks so calm. For a guy that has a lot of pressure on him to execute as well as he does and to play those dangerous melee or get into those melee range heroes, I have never seen him in this with this demeanor. The first two games, I feel like they put way too much on his shoulders with not a lot of backup. But now they have a team surrounding him, and this is why they are here in the championship and why they look so good during their first sets. And now they're here, and this is what we expected in this set. I know you and I talked about this, like after those first two games. It's like they're putting a lot on his shoulders, and it's not what we saw from them the first few games. So I love what they're doing right now.
The changes they've made to their compositions are great, but I also can't stress enough how important it is when you have this team made of 3 extremely veteran players, have traveled to a lot of events, have been in the finals multiple times, have suffered awful 5-game defeats, amazing 3-0 victories, and everything in between. They're so level-headed.
I mean, I want to get to that point. You know, obviously you have experienced that with them, and you guys on previous Cloud9 used to thrive off the stage. It felt like you used to thrive off the stage. How did it affect these 3 specifically? Or was it you? Was it Athlon back then? Who was it who really thrived?
Actually, I think Dream is the one who gets the most hyphy from the energy levels. He's just one of those players who is like a hot, cold player, and he goes on fire when the stage loves him.
They've let Greymane through here in the draft, brought to you by Auros.
Okay, so here's the thing about Zul, and this is something that I've said so many times, is that against an Illidan, you're probably, if you see a Brightwing, they're going to be forced into a cleanse. The Bone Prison onto Illidan is such, if Illidan can't move and he can't get on somebody, it's a very big problem for him. And I like that. The same thing, Greymane is an interesting thing. I've seen it work on some teams to where if Greymane dives in, you have that short window before he can disengage because it's 2 seconds before that Bone Prison lands, and you can punish players diving in. Not only that, but Zul is an absolute menace in those top 2 lanes early game, and he puts a lot of pressure on the other teams.
Zul is a menace in the top 2 lanes, but I think something that Murloc is going to get sidelined here by is Kerrigan is amazing into Zul. That's one of the reasons we don't see European teams play Zul, is because they're so afraid of that Zul-Kerrigan matchup. It's so devastating. If Zul's going for those rotations, he wants to be alone, the Kerrigan can just get pickoffs.
Do you think that's going to be able, do you think they know that, they recognize that, and that might warrant? I mean, it would be a justified ban because it's a hero that Glaurung excels on, and you have the opportunity to take away a counter. Do they need to ban that here, or what's their target?
I think they really do need to ban it. Or be willing to pick Medivh if Denial shows it in their 3-4 slot. The thing is, I think Denial would be really happy to play Medivh on this map, there's so much open space where the portals can basically go over the water. So on Blackheart's Bay, there's like this docks area, there's water patches in between, and a lot of blocking around the chest. You can actually portal over those spaces and create amazing rotations for your team that aren't possible any other way.
Yeah, definitely. You got to be careful about that. Denial Esports is waiting for their second ban now to come in here. What do you think they're going to be focusing on here, Jay Howe?
I think that there's still obviously there's going to be a really strong possibility that we're going to see an Illidan, Kerrigan, maybe even the Zeratul again. I'm not as high on Zeratul here, but I think that they're definitely going to be filling that role, and I think that Denial is going to be looking at a ban to make sure that they're going to find something that doesn't punish that. Oriole is going to be a hero that I think that we're seeing from everybody that doesn't want to be played against. So when you have that, it means that somebody plans on diving, and you're not going to have the crystal to save them. So possibly a D-shield coming out if we go Uther pick. But there's the Tracer event. They do not want to deal with that anymore.
Yeah, but that now gives rise to that Kerrigan that you were mentioning.
Illidan or Kerrigan in this is going to be great. And if they wait to take it in the last pick, I think that's a wonderful strategy.
Denying the Crystal Aegis here, I think, is super key for Denial. We have seen that they're the kind of team that loves to go all in their team fights. They want that momentum. They want to push you back. They want you to trip. They want you to fall, body block each other as you try and get out of these chokes when they're engaging. And because Ariel just denies all of that forward momentum, it seemed like Denial had a real weak spot against her. And I like... Whoa.
No.
This is the second
Malfurion is not
event.
a pick, I'm being told.
Okay.
It's Muradin. So they both start with M.
It's easy to get confused. They have nice beards.
They do have nice
I am
beards.
A fan.
Yeah.
I am a fan of those. No.
All right. Does this basically say Illidan in that last slot?
It looks more Illidan-like than most would. Kerrigan is still an option. For me personally, I love to see that Kerrigan, especially against ETC and against Zul. Illidan is an option. I'm worried about playing it into Greymane, though. I feel like that is a tough matchup.
Either hero here, I think I feel like it's got to be between those two. Maybe three if we count Zeratul.
Exactly.
But this is exactly what Denial wants. But I really like Murloc. There's the Illidan pick. And I like the fact that they ended up picking up Sylvanas. Yes, they have double specialists, but they have a couple of really good counters. The Bone Prison's there. It's going to force a cleanse out of Brightwing. And then Greymane, if that cleanse is not available, you can collapse on it. You have the Wailing Arrow from Sylvanas. There's a lot there, I think, to deal with the composition from Denial. This looks much more even in the drafts than I think we saw the previous two games.
For me, when I look at a draft, I'm always scared for Illidan when I see a Sylvanas, and they predicted it perfectly. As you're mentioning, it's there for Illidan, but there's so much weight on his shoulders now.
I'm actually a little surprised that they went with that Illidan after seeing the Sylvanas. Yeah. I know for a fact Glaurung loves to play Zeratul and prey on solo Rhaegar healers, and that's what we're seeing from Murlocs. That Rhaegar is so vulnerable to getting Void Prisoned, and since the timing on Ancestral is so precise, there's such a small window, you can just Void Prison him out and crush a team fight.
Those two guys we saw right there, King Capian and Glaurung, we've talked a lot about them, but it almost gets lost because there's two guys also there between K1 and iDream. They've been so good for so long, I feel like we almost take them for granted. Because K1, his diversity from what we've seen out of him the last few days, and the way he executes, and he plays heroes so well, it's what you expect. But I feel that with Glaurung there, he has the tools around him in those two players to really make this composition work, despite the possible disadvantages that they might have against the comp like Murloc is running.
All right, before we actually get to the lineups, we're in the final game. I haven't normally asked you for predictions in any way, shape, or form, but it's the grand final. It is the final game. I'm going to put you both on the spot. Who is going away with this championship, looking at those lineups?
Denial. They're going to take it home. They want this victory. They want it bad. There's no way they're letting this one get out of their grasp.
I heard one clap for that. Because I am on the side of Murloc with this draft. And I think they have the tools right now in game number 5 to seal the deal.
All right, then. Let's get into it. There are the lineups. Game number 5. Denial Esports versus Murloc Geniuses. What are the picks here for you boys?
iDream and K1 Pro. I saw K1 Pro on this Tassadar on a Sky Temple map. He did so much for his team. It's a very underrated hero, but it contributes a lot to what they've got going.
Glaurung has all the weight on his shoulders in this composition, I feel like he's going to have to do amazing coin management in order to be able to win this game for his team. The team fight looks hard, but I think they have the tools to PvE to victory.
All right, unless there is a tiebreaker, we are heading over to the Xfinity casting desk for one final time as Gilly and Dreadnought take us to game number 5.
Dread, I've got the feels a little bit here because this is the very last game of the last North American Regional for all of 2016, and we made it to game number 5. Both of these teams have so much they're fighting for. Murloc Geniuses wanted to prove that they deserved that Burbank win and already went so far with that in taking out Naventic, but Denial on the other side. People like K1 Pro tweeting out that this is the hardest he's ever worked for an event so far, and they've proven it. They've made it this far.
Yeah, they've done a very good job showing that they have trained thoroughly to be able to show up here at this event and really make a name for themselves, but now they're one game away from BlizzCon 2015 champions, 3 of the members, to possibly making their chances into BlizzCon 2016. We're going to find out here on Blackheart's Bay.
Teams starting to set up at 50 seconds for that number 1 chest spawn. And some people moving down, maybe wanting to help out Sylvanas with that, giving up the mid chest in favor of getting this one. If they know that they can't win that trade at level 1, instead just wanting to make sure that they can still not lose all of the coins.
Yeah, and it's going to be a free cap there for Denial in the upper half. Bottom chest is going completely over to the hands of Murloc Geniuses, so our 5-for-5 trade here. Zul is going to just dominate the wave clear on the upper half of the map. Expect that all day, while the rest of the 4-man of Murloc Geniuses apply pressure, using that Sylvanas already on the bottom half of the map here, anchoring on the side of Fury. Really good approach here already from Murloc Geniuses here, establishing dominance on the map.
The poll was pretty close between these two teams on who you guys think is going to take the victory. I think 43 to 57. Pretty close, but still in favor of Murloc Geniuses. We'll see if you guys guessed what right by the end of this game. Caterpillar wanting to do the normal Zul things on Blackheart's Bay. Clear out one lane, move to the mid, then clear that out and go to the top. We got Murden and Illidan to see if they can stall that out.
Yeah, and Illidan has kill potential if Zul ends up overextending a bit too far. Psalm stuck on the bottom half. We do see the 4-man rotation that has moved to the upper half of the map for Murloc Geniuses here. And again, it all comes down to that structure damage, the siege, and the coins. Blackheart's Bay, such a unique map comparative to the rest and the entire arsenal there. Glaurung's going to be starting out with the night camp there. Can solo all the camps by himself is why he's so good, Illidan, on this map specifically, Gilly.
Right, there are so many mercenary camps here. You've got the normal mercenary camps, 5 of those, plus a boss in the top. Then to add to that, you have those 4 pirate camps. They all give coins. And the fact that all of those things, except maybe boss, debatably maybe boss, Illidan can do by himself in very early on with Immolation picked up.
Yeah, so already a reasonable amount of structure damage here done for Murloc Geniuses. Psalm is backed out, ends up getting the small pirate camp there for himself. But they've taken out half the turret there, 1 turret on bottom half the map as well. And it all comes down to that small amount of damage. Whenever you can do that over time, it adds up so much when it comes to those turn-ins. The more efficient the turn-in, typically the better it's going to be for your team.
And that's why Sylvanas is very important to Murloc Geniuses, as is Zul, because he can put the pressure on, drain ammo, so maybe his mercenary camps can get that structural damage done. But these teams know exactly how much they need to do at each phase to ensure that, for instance, the first turn-in will net you the very first fort.
And already 6 coins are going to be turned in here for Murloc Geniuses. That doesn't look like, actually, with Psalm rotating over, they're going to be pressuring a first turn-in. I don't know if there's going to be a delay. Denial, iDream does realize that that is going to be the case. Glaurung's not in position, and Tassadar not there for the poke. So that is first turn-in here, going over to Murloc Geniuses. Because of the damage done on mid, that is going to be first fort of the game.
Now, Denial have the ability to pick up Mule. Do you think that they'll want to go for that?
I think it's an option. I don't know if I don't think they will, personally. It is an old school strategy, if you will, but I just don't think it'll be something they move into, because with the wave clear that we see on the side of Murloc Geniuses, it just seems unrealistic to gain max value out of it before the next turn-in or just siege from Sylv happens.
And it would sacrifice some of the really important tools, because level 7 is big for supports, in keeping Illidan alive. And they have put, again, a lot of eggs into the Illidan basket, as is Denial's way, at least for this grand final.
Yeah, and it has been achieved there because the mid-4 has gone down. Murloc Genius is keeping the Zool up there. Greymane securing the night camp here. 13 coins, or doubloons, if you will, for Denial in their hands. They're just trying to deal with the pressure, though, that we see Zool has applied to the upper half here. 3v3 skirmish on bottom. Murloc Geniuses, that's going to be 2 more coins going over them. 5 coins in their hands with pressure all over the map.
And that's the magic of Zool and Blackheart's Bay. If you can't stop him from soaking the 2 lanes at once, everyone else runs rampant to get mercenary camps, to pick up doubloon chests, just like we're seeing. The pressure is early on, and it's already started.
And that is going to be a deny of the turn-in there onto Glorong. He won't be able to confirm that. 10 coins now are available, or in the hands of Murloc Geniuses as they confirm that bottom chest. Zool's gone in. That is going to be Backlash now popped up for him. He's not going to get any damage there. So many coins in the hands of Denial, but they're going to back out. 11 to 12 when it comes to how many they have. And really, the XP is a level behind, but it's not that bad considering the structure advantage that we see for Murlocs over Denial Esports. But this is how do I say this? This is the mid-sized snowball right now that we know Blackheart's Bay can build. And when that 10 spike with the next turn-in and the Sylv, depending on what Murloc Geniuses threaten, they could be in a position where this game becomes way out of control for Denial.
Fury has done an amazing job zoning people away from these turn-in points, because that's a second turn-in from Murloc Geniuses just as they hit 10. And I think it's an important point to talk about right now. When you start to hold a lot of doubloons or gems on Tomb of the Spider Queen, you become fearful to fight.
Yes.
And if Murlocs take advantage of that from Denial, that could be a disaster for Denial.
Yeah, and because Denial is able to Murloc Geniuses take out the structures on the bottom half of the map, their turn-in is confirmed the ones on the upper half of the map as well. And this is that 10 spike I'm talking about with Sylvanas. They can just start going for key front walls. They've already gotten 3 forwards here, and the shots are not done yet as they have moved their eyes towards the middle keep front wall. And once you start threatening the keeps, that is when everything gets very ugly here for Denial. They need to make sure they are safe with their doubloons, as Glorong already holds quite a few into his possession. 6 for him and 8 for Caffeine. Skeletal defenders go down, and they're going in, Gilly.
There you are. The Wailing Arrow hits many members, and Li Ming drops very fast. That is a quick kill for Murloc Geniuses, and with that, they're right by more keep towers, and Sylvanas, along with the pack, ensures that they can take one down.
Yeah, that's really big if they get that damage, but keep in mind, they're getting split so great there from K1 Pro, and Cestral's going to be able to land there. Psalm now is going on to Glorong. Keep in mind, he has 6 of the gems as he gets the Metamorphosis in. Fury has Mosh Pit there, but he gets the zoning right there. Now, they are trying to get on to Glorong, but they're not being able to confirm the kill. He goes down, and so does 6 doubloons over to Murloc Geniuses.
Backlash damage from Caterpillar. Glorong could not get away from that Fury with the zoning Mosh Pit to ensure that kill, getting more doubloons away from the hands of Denial, and importantly, keeping their momentum in this game. They're ahead 2 talent tier, or not 2 talent tiers, 2 levels. They're ahead in their doubloons as well, and all of the lanes have been pushed in their advantage.
Denial needs to force this fight before their opponents end up getting the 13. Keep in mind, with that structure damage they did in the mid lane, they will be able to secure an entire keep with the next turn in here for Murloc Geniuses. And that is 7.5 minutes into the game, because they have dominated the map with the double specialist dream here with Sylvanas and Zool. You see them looking to try and get this fight. It's an open area. This is what Glorong wants to see, but 13 is so close here for this team, as Fury is a bit split from the team. He's going to be all right. It looks like Cap will get the free turn-in because 13's not achieved. Murloc Genius is giving a bit more than maybe they need to.
The bottom wave was pretty big for Sylvanas. Almost got them 13, but not quite. Just on the edge of not getting it. And Murloc's feeling like we already have control of this game. We're already ahead. We don't want to give anything to Denial much more than we have to. So they will finally get some structure damage taken from a turn-in from Denial, but still that is a lot of the doubloons that Denial had available, and Murloc Geniuses using the 13 advantage to go for a quick boss.
Yeah, and they get onto the boss here. We know that Muradin's on the lower half, and so does Murloc Geniuses. Slam coming in, it's going to be confirmed. This is going to draw so many resources from Denial. They're going to be worried about getting the clear. But meanwhile, Murloc's name will make the rotation to get the turn-in the middle half. What this boss is going to do is not a keep. What that turn-in will do is a keep. It's actually, surprisingly, in the best interest for Denial Esports to be concentrating on stopping that turn-in rather than this boss. But we'll see if they end up going with that rotation, as well as 19 doubloons in the hands of Murloc Geniuses. And there's not even 13 yet. It's so hard for them to take any decision here.
That's why the vision on this battleground is so important, because it's right by that boss, and it lets you see your opponent's rotations if they were to come in and try to stop that. But Murloc Geniuses, knowing that they had 13 and knowing where their opponents were very far down on the battleground, Blackheart's Bay takes a while to traverse from bottom to top. And here is another turn-in, and Murlocs have not had to be worried about fighting with a ton of doubloons because they always get the turn-ins.
Yeah, they are very much reaping the reward of Blackheart himself here. Nightcam now going to be picked up on the lower half. Still have a couple of coins in their hands. 5 exactly for now. That's going to be 4 more added on. 9 in their possession. Their turn-in is going to be at the 16 mark here. But this, look at that damage coming in there. K1 Pro trying to help it out here. It's not going to be able to confirm the keep. It's too early in the scaling. I was incorrect on that, but it does so much for them as they're going in for this fight.
Murlocs are playing this beautifully. They have mercenary camps pushing while this fight rages on. Glaurung in the back, jumping in, but Brightwing has been taken down, and Glau gets stunned. He drops. That's 4 more doubloons that Murloc Geniuses pick up, but they want more kills. They are not letting K1 Pro get out of this situation alive. That'll be another kill going to Murloc Geniuses.
That keep, look at the health on that thing, is so low. Oh my goodness, Murloc Geniuses here is rotating in mid like they're going to try and end the game, but that is not the decision they can get away with. If they confirm the keep, back out, get the coins, and to get the turn in, they're going to be all right, and that's what they do. Scythe's going to be thrown out there. Murden is on the top set of on the top chest here. Gets away with 1 coin, not even.
Nope.
Sadly has to leave it there. But this is huge. The turn in here with the keep already down, and then now it's going to get so much pressure on the bottom half. Li Ming is on the chase of ETC though, and Cav is looking to cut them off. He might be able to get the pick here, as Psalm is a bit weak.
Stormbolt doesn't hit anybody. Murloc Geniuses are trying to regroup Polymorph, giving them some time to do that. They should move away from this chest. They have a ton of doubloons. They do not want to give to Denial. That is exactly how a team comes back into Blackheart's base, steals gems or steals doubloons just like that.
Yeah, and they don't even have enough for a turn in here. Denial, even if they back out, get Giants and Pirates, that's the only really option that they have. The reset here is such a great move from Murloc Geniuses, taking that patience because they can go back, get that 16-tier fight over their opponents, but they also had Knights pressuring top.
I
that
know!
Confirmed it. This next turn in is a minimum of top keep now because of that decision. Bottom has already lost almost all of its structures as well, so it might be getting damage. It will get damage. How much so? I don't know quite yet though, but this is just I mean, we talked about that mid-sized snowball. Turns out this thing is an avalanche at this point for Murlocs.
A veritable snowstorm coming in, and not much Denial
you could say
can
a blizzard.
do. Yeah, there we go. That makes a lot of sense. Who would have thought of that? This is a tough position for Denial to be in, but such is Blackheart's Bay, and they know what they have to do. They have to win a fight, steal away doubloons, but they're facing 2 of their keeps down, and this third one is going to take a lot of damage.
There are 11 coins right now in the hands of Murloc Geniuses. I don't think that's going to confirm. That's only 2 shots. It's so close.
Maybe?
It's alive. It's alive.
Okay.
That's all right. So it's going to barely survive on the bottom half here. 11 coins in their hands for now. Now it's secured. Oh, it barely died. I'm so bad. Oh, man, that's the second one I miscalled this game. I should pretty much never talk about Blackhearts again. All right, so 3 more coins they're going to be able to get the turn-in. The turn-in will be focused solely on the core as there are 0 structures available, no wells, nothing of the like left for Denial Esports. They just need the 16 tier, but at this point, there's so much to be lost. Not only their chances of BlizzCon, but probably the rest of this game is they're on so far behind here. I'm trying to find a major win condition for them. I think it's going to be the boss in a possible throw. 45 seconds on the spawn of that here for Murloc Geniuses or Denial Esports. See if one of them tries to take it.
The best thing for Denial is they have 16 and there weren't a lot of options. There are actually 0 options except for stealing away the bruisers on Denial's side for Murloc Geniuses to get the doubloons they need.
Yeah, and this is a situation where Murloc can just actually never take a fight until they get to 20. I doubt they're going to be able to wait that long, but really they have no pressure. Waiting it out, trying to figure out, taking the fight in their footing is the most important thing. And I mean, I would like to see them try and take fights that are proactive on their opponent's side of the map, just because even if they lose 1 to 2 people, it leaves the largest amount of distance for Denial to be able to end the game over a crazy wipe right there. So we'll see if they end up going with that though, but they just picking up the night camp.
Oh,
you see everybody on Denial scouting it out. That is June getting caught out. That's a force wall as well. He will not. He's going down. There we go. But again, what did that really cost them? This is Blackheart's Bay. They need to make something happen more than just, okay, we got coins, because there's no structures down. These turn-ins for Denial mean nothing.
They would need to turn in so many gems, so many doubloons even, to be able to get caught back up to the structure advantage that Murlocs have. There is the boss free, and Vision has been taken by Denial.
Boss loses in the game. If they start it and they know that they're starting it, they legitimately can rush the board.
There's 4. That's
a turn-in. That's not game if the turn-in happens. Actually, there is a split decision. Half of them are on the boss. They're feigning it here. They have started it. Glorin should be able to get a large amount of damage and even potentially solo it at this point. Chess, half spawn. That's going to be 10 available. Enough for a turn-in here. Glorin wailing away at that. I don't think anybody realizes that he's not at the night camp and instead actually going to be at the boss. He backs off though, and he's going to look for the fight here on the bottom half. Again, it has to be a full wipe. And keep in mind, 2 night camps are pushing on towards the core for Denial.
Yeah, Brightwing is back at base trying to stop that pressure you mentioned. Here comes June to help out with his team too. King Caffeine jumps in, Stormbolt doesn't hit. Nobody separate away with Force Wall either.
Brightwing is still in back of the base trying to get the clear. Everybody getting poked down. Glorin has decided to go in. He's going to be rooted here for 2 seconds. Psalm has so much damage. Metamorphosis going in. Ancestral going in as well. But that is Cap going down already. Glorin's on the retreat. Huge Emerald One going to be able to split these teams. Psalm now has 6 coins and he is about to go down the route now onto Glorin. And Psalm stays alive here. It is looking bad. Great job to get the juke there on from the mosh pit, Gilly, but it does not look pretty. Denial. That might be it.
What a beautiful Wailing Arrow too on Murden to help get that first kill. Murloc Geniuses have what they need for a turn-in, more than enough for a turn-in. They are rolling in the money, and that should be it. They can move on in. 3 members down for Denial. Murloc Geniuses, so many people doubted them, even after they won at Burbank. The doubt was there, but they came in today, even after losing in the group stage. They took out Team Defensive. They brought down Denial Esports, and they are going to win the 2nd North American Regional.
They, in very convincing fashion, were able to take that last game. Very methodical, such beautiful play from Murloc Geniuses, but you know what that means.
I do know what that means.
The Gale Force boys get a second chance. Whether or not they deserve it, in this, after getting knocked out in the rounds, they're going to have to show that this second life actually matters. We've seen teams in the past be able to do it. Fnatic, specifically, they came back, they won their ticket to BlizzCon.
Denial has to fight on a little bit longer, and one last best of 3 to claim their spot at BlizzCon. And here we have some of the highlights from this beautiful, perfect game from Murloc Geniuses.
Almost
Complete
textbook.
Control.
Yeah, for Blackheart's Bay, they just did everything almost perfectly here. Murloc Geniuses, I mean, I put a lot of doubt into them when it came to the first regional victory, even this one as well, but they have shown, without a doubt, they are the best team here in North America and have been for some time. Very good job on their half, but Denial put up a showing with iDream addition to the roster that they are a new version of Denial, one that still has an opportunity to make it onto BlizzCon here, ladies and gentlemen, as they will be moving on to a tiebreaker match against GFE.
Murloc Geniuses had to fight so hard for this victory too. Both of their series, the semifinals versus Naventic and the finals here versus Denial, coming down to the wire, the very last game, but showing that they have the stamina, the mental stamina, and the fortitude to be able to not get freaked out and win.
Yeah, it is a rough position to be in here for both of the teams that will be playing on, but I mean, I can't help but just appreciate that Murloc Geniuses seems to be the only team that is truly ripping away at their opponents as we look at them there. Murloc Geniuses, for the 2nd time, your North American champions. Congratulations.
Alrighty, everyone. Murlocs once again defending their title. And I don't even know what else to say. I mean, we had this exact scenario in Europe where Dignitas, they retained back-to-back events with the championship. But coming into this event, you guys were the team that wasn't supposed to win. Now you're here, and you have the title of the Gatekeepers. How does it feel, man?
It feels really good. I mean, we made some mistakes, but like we pulled it together, and we always stay calm and collected, and it pays off in the end.
So when it boils down to it, would you say that this is the hardest event you have ever played in?
Absolutely. I think the top 4 at this event were like the closest it's ever been.
Well, we already know you're going to BlizzCon, so I don't have to ask you about that. My only question for you is Gale Force or Denial? They're going to be playing in that best of 3. Who do you think has it?
I mean, I'm sorry, V-Kid, but Denial's taking this.
Denial. In his opinion, I want to hear what the panel has to say.
Thank you very much, guys. All right, okay, so that is done and done here for the main tournament. Congratulations to Murloc Geniuses, who once again show that they are the true current North American champions. Fantastic scenes here from PAX West, of course, as they crown themselves two-time champions, something you know very much about here, Dunk. But of course, overall, what a way for that series to end. They showed, even though after adversity, that they were still able to hold their own there on Black Arts Bay.
You have to respect that. You have to respect losing 2 games in the middle of a series and then coming back mentally with a dominating performance in Game 5. It's hard to stress just how impactful it is. When you start up 2-0 in a set, especially a best of 5, obviously best of 3 is over, you feel like you have so much momentum. You feel like you can't lose the set. All you have to do is clinch out 1 more game. And then to lose 2 back-to-back after that, it's heartbreaking. So these guys really proved they have the mettle that it takes in order to survive that Game 5.
Dunk, you told me something right before we came on camera. I want to hear it straight from you. What about Murloc Geniuses?
Well, they mentioned it a little bit in the interview, how Murloc Genius is now a 2-time champion, but this is actually only the 2nd time in North America there's been a back-to-back regional champion.
Right.
The last time was Cloud9 in the first spring regional.
You just had to do it, didn't you?
Well, I want to clarify. I mean, this is kind of a new era for NA Heroes of the Storm. It's very hard to back-to-back win events.
Yep.
And the fact that we are seeing this team, who for a long time, all these players have been grinding. They have been working as hard as possible to make it to the top tier of NA, to become the champions. And it's actually really great to see their dedication rewarded.
These players, again, I said it earlier, I'm saying it again. These are individual players that had great individual talent that were asked to do quite a bit on their former teams. They've come together, and they've made what is now a back-to-back championship team. And I don't think that can be understated, the teamwork and the synergy that these 5 members have.
Yeah, moving on to the top 8 at BlizzCon, already guaranteed here for the Fall Championship, which will be coming up towards November, of course. Don't forget, though, although Murloc Geniuses have crowned themselves 2-time champions now here in North America, we still have our all-important tiebreaker match to come to determine who takes the 2nd spot here in North America. Will it be GFE or will it be Denial Esports? Join us after the break when we have that match coming up very soon.